Every Friday at 7 p.m., a man walks into a diner and orders two meals. One he eats, the other sits untouched across from him until closing time. For 3 years, he's never missed a single Friday, never spoken to anyone, never explained why. But when a woman finally asks him why he keeps coming back alone, his answer stops her cold. Some things don't need to be seen to be kept. What promise could be worth 3 years of silence? What loss runs so deep that even time can't touch it? Stay with me until the end to find out. Like this story and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this has traveled. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and decades of grease that no amount of scrubbing could lift from the vinyl booths. It sat on the corner of Mercer and Fifth, the kind of place people passed without noticing, wedged between a laundromat that had gone out of business 2 years ago and a check cashing place that never seemed to close. The neon sign out front buzzed and flickered, missing the E in diner, so it just read DINR in pale pink light that made everyone inside look slightly sick. Logan Pierce pushed through the glass door at exactly 7 p.m. on a Friday in late September. The bell above the entrance let out its tired jingle, and Marla, the waitress who'd worked there longer than most of the equipment had been functional, glanced up from wiping down the counter. "Your usual spot's open," she said, not bothering with a greeting. Logan nodded once and made his way to the booth in the back corner, the one with the cracked red leather that had been patched with duct tape in 3 places. He was 32 but moved like someone older, deliberate in his steps, economical with his energy. Dark hair starting to show gray at the temples, jeans that had been washed too many times, work boots with steel toes, scuffed but clean. He slid into the booth and set his phone face down on the table without looking at it. Marla appeared 30 seconds later with a notepad she didn't need. "Two specials?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am." "Drinks?" "Water's fine, both." She wrote it down anyway, a formality they'd observed every Friday for longer than either of them cared to count, and disappeared into the kitchen. The diner was mostly empty. An elderly man sat at the counter reading a newspaper with a magnifying glass. 2 teenagers occupied a booth near the front, sharing a basket of fries and speaking in the kind of hushed tones that suggested either romance or conspiracy. The jukebox in the corner played something instrumental and forgettable. Logan sat very still, hands folded on the table, eyes fixed on nothing in particular, waiting. 15 minutes later, Marla returned with 2 plates. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans that had been cooked until they gave up their structural integrity. She set one plate in front of Logan and the other across from him at the empty seat. "You need anything else?" she asked. "No, ma'am, thank you." She left without another word. Logan picked up his fork and began to eat, methodical bites, chewing thoroughly, no rush. The plate across from him sat untouched, steam rising from the mashed potatoes in lazy spirals until it stopped rising at all. He ate in silence. The teenagers left. The old man folded his newspaper and shuffled out, leaving a handful of coins on the counter. New customers filtered in and out, mostly takeout orders, nobody staying long. The music cycled through its predetermined rotation. Outside, the light faded from gray to black, and the street lamps blinked on in uneven intervals. At 8:45 p.m., Logan set down his fork. His plate was empty except for a small smear of gravy he'd left behind. The other plate remained exactly as Marla had placed it, cooling into a congealed mass that no longer resembled food. He stood, pulled a $20 bill from his wallet, and left it on the table without waiting for change. Marla watched him leave from behind the counter, wiping down the same spot she'd wiped when he arrived. "Every damn Friday?" muttered a cook through the kitchen window. "Leave him alone," Marla said quietly. The bell jingled. Logan was gone. 3 weeks later, Ava Sinclair walked into the diner at 7:23 p.m. on a Friday because her car had made a noise she didn't like, and she'd pulled off at the first exit to check it. The noise turned out to be nothing, or at least nothing she could identify, which was the same as nothing in her book. She was hungry, annoyed at herself for not eating lunch, and still had an hour's drive ahead of her. The diner looked like every other forgettable roadside place she'd ever seen, which made it perfect. She wouldn't run into anyone she knew. She could eat something fast and tasteless and get back on the highway before she lost too much time. She chose a booth near the middle, pulled out her phone, and started responding to emails before she even looked at the menu. 28 years old, 2 promotions in 3 years, on track to make senior analyst by 30 if she kept her head down, and her hours up. She dressed like someone who took meetings seriously. Dark slacks, a gray blouse, minimal jewelry. Her hair was pulled back in a way that suggested efficiency rather than style. Marla arrived with a laminated menu and a glass of water Ava hadn't asked for. "What can I get you?" Ava barely glanced up. "What's fast?" "Grilled cheese, burger, soup." "Burger, no onions, fries." Marla wrote it down and left. Ava returned to her phone, scrolling through a presentation draft her colleague had sent with at least 4 mistakes in the first 3 slides. She was halfway through a reply when she noticed the man in the back corner. He sat alone in the booth with the duct-taped seat, utterly still, hands resting on the table like he was waiting for something. In front of him sat a plate of food, mostly eaten. Across from him sat another plate, completely untouched. Ava stared at it longer than she meant to. The second plate wasn't pushed aside or forgotten. It was placed deliberately, carefully, like someone was meant to sit there. But no one did. The man didn't look around, didn't check his phone, just sat there in perfect stillness, as if the rest of the world had agreed to pause for him. She looked away when Marla returned with her food. "Who's that?" Ava asked, nodding toward the back. Marla didn't even turn around. "Regular." "Does he always order 2 meals?" "Every Friday." "Is someone meeting him?" Marla set the plate down with a soft clink. "Doesn't seem like it." Ava wanted to ask more, but Marla had already moved on to another table, and the question felt intrusive in a way she couldn't quite justify. She ate quickly, paid, and left, telling herself she wouldn't think about it again. But she did. The next Friday, she told herself she was taking the same route because it was convenient, not because she was curious. And yet at 7:15 p.m., she found herself pulling into the same parking lot, walking through the same door, sliding into the same booth. Marla recognized her immediately, but didn't comment. "Burger? No onions?" "Yeah," Ava said, caught off guard. "Thanks." This time she didn't pretend to look at her phone. She watched. Logan arrived at exactly 7 p.m., same booth, same order. 2 plates. 1 eaten, 1 untouched. He never looked around, never checked the door. He simply sat, ate, and waited for something that never came. Ava stayed until he left at 8:45, same $20 bill, same slow, deliberate walk toward the exit. She came back the next Friday, and the one after that. By the 4th week, Marla didn't bother asking for her order. "You're not here for the food," Marla said, setting down the burger Ava barely touched anymore. Ava flushed. "I don't know what you mean." Marla raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "You want to know about him? Ask him yourself." "I'm not." "Sure you're not." Marla walked away, and Ava sat there feeling ridiculous and transparent and inexplicably determined. The following Friday, she arrived early and chose a booth closer to the back. When Logan walked in at 7 o'clock, she watched him settle into his routine with the same precision he always did. Marla brought the plates. Logan ate in silence. The second meal cooled into waste. At 8:30, Ava stood up. Her heart was beating harder than it should have been for such a simple act. She crossed the diner in 6 steps and stopped beside his booth. "Excuse me," she said. Logan looked up. His eyes were gray, tired, but not unkind. "Yes?" She hadn't planned what to say. Now, standing there under the diner's fluorescent lights with a stranger staring at her, she realized how absurd this was. "I've seen you here before," she said. "A few times." "Okay." "You always order 2 meals." He didn't respond. "But you eat alone." "I do." Ava hesitated. "Can I ask why?" Logan studied her for a moment, and she had the distinct sense of being assessed, weighed against some internal measure she couldn't see. "Some things don't need to be seen to be kept," he said quietly. The answer didn't make sense, but the way he said it, calm, final, like a door closing, made it clear he wasn't going to explain further. "I'm sorry," Ava said. "I didn't mean to intrude." "You didn't." She nodded, feeling foolish, and turned to leave. "You come here a lot too," Logan said. She stopped. "I've noticed you," he continued. "Same booth, same night. You don't eat much." Ava turned back. Yeah, I guess I do." "Why?" She opened her mouth and closed it again. The truth that she'd been coming to watch him felt too strange to say aloud. So she said the other truth instead. "I don't know." Logan nodded once, as if that answer made perfect sense. and returned to his meal. Ava went back to her booth, paid, and left. But as she drove home that night, his words circled in her mind like a song she couldn't shake. Some things don't need to be seen to be kept. 2 weeks later, she broke her own rule and spoke to Marla directly. "How long has he been coming here?" Marla leaned against the counter, arms crossed. 3 years, give or take. Every Friday. Never missed one. Has anyone ever sat with him in that second seat? Not once. Ava processed that. 3 years of untouched meals. 3 years of silent Fridays. Do you know why? Marla's expression softened, just slightly. Not my place to ask. But you must have a theory. Theories don't help people, Marla said. Leaving them alone does. Ava wanted to argue, but Marla had already turned away. That night, Ava couldn't sleep. She lay in her apartment staring at the ceiling, thinking about the man in the back booth, about promises kept in silence, about loss so heavy it required weekly observance. She thought about her own life, her calendar filled with meetings and metrics, her carefully constructed plans, her refusal to waste a single hour on anything that didn't move her forward. And yet here she was, spending every Friday in a diner, watching a stranger eat alone. What did that say about her? The next Friday, she arrived early again. This time, she didn't sit in her usual booth. She walked straight to the back and slid into the seat across from Logan before she could talk herself out of it. He looked up, startled. "I'm sorry," Ava said quickly. "I know this is weird, but I need to understand." Logan set down his fork. "Understand what?" "This." She gestured at the empty plate between them. "You've been doing this for 3 years. You come here every single Friday and order a meal for someone who never shows up. Why?" "I told you to say, I know what you told me, but that's not an answer. That's a deflection." Logan was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned back against the cracked vinyl and exhaled slowly. "You ever make a promise you couldn't break?" he asked. "Yes." "Then you understand." "But who are you keeping it for?" Ava pressed. "Someone who's gone? Someone who left?" Logan's jaw tightened. "Does it matter?" "Yes," Ava said. "Because you're still here, and you're wasting every Friday on something that doesn't—" She stopped herself, but the damage was done. Logan's expression hardened. "Doesn't what? Matter?" "I didn't mean—" "You don't know anything about me," he said quietly. "You don't know what this costs or why it's worth it. You just see someone sitting alone and decide there's something wrong with that." Ava felt her face flush. "You're right, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. And I'm telling you, it's none of your business." He stood, pulled out his wallet, and dropped 2 20s on the table. "Wait," Ava said. But Logan was already walking toward the door. The bell jingled. He was gone. Marla appeared at Ava's elbow, shaking her head. "Told you to leave him alone." Ava sat there in the empty booth, staring at the 2 plates, one half-eaten, one untouched, and felt something crack open inside her chest. She'd pushed too hard. She knew that. But she also knew she wasn't wrong, because whatever Logan was holding on to, it was holding him just as tightly, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was drowning in it. Ava didn't go back the next Friday, or the one after that. She told herself it was better this way. She'd crossed a line, inserted herself into someone's grief or ritual or whatever the hell it was, and she had no right. Logan had made that clear. But on the 3rd Friday, she found herself driving toward the diner anyway, pulled by something she didn't have a name for. She arrived at 7:45, late enough that she'd missed his arrival. Through the window, she could see him in his usual spot, alone, eating in silence. The second plate sat across from him, untouched as always. Ava almost turned around, but then she saw something that stopped her. Logan wasn't eating, he was just sitting there, staring at the empty seat across from him, and his face looked carved from exhaustion. She pushed through the door. Marla glanced up, surprised. "Thought you quit." "Me too," Ava said. She walked to the back booth and stopped. Logan looked up. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," Ava said, "but I couldn't stay away." His expression flickered, something unreadable passing through his eyes. "Why not?" Ava swallowed. "Because I think you're in pain, and I think you've been carrying it alone for too long." Logan stared at her. Then slowly he gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit," he said quietly. Ava sat. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The diner hummed around them, dishes clattering, the jukebox cycling through its rotation, Marla refilling coffee at the counter. But in their booth, the world felt suspended. Finally, Logan spoke. Her name was Claire. Ava's breath caught. We met in college, married at 24, had a son when I was 27. His voice was low, steady, but fragile beneath. She died 4 years ago, cancer, 30 years old. I'm so sorry, Ava whispered. Logan nodded. Before she passed, she made me promise something. She said no matter what happened, no matter how hard it got, I had to keep showing up. For our son, for myself. She said, don't disappear, Logan. Don't let grief make you a ghost. He looked down at the untouched plate. So every Friday, I come here. Same time, same meal. I sit with her memory and I remind myself that I'm still here, that I didn't disappear. Ava felt tears prick her eyes. You've been doing this for 3 years? Every week. And your son? He's with a sitter on Fridays, just for this hour. Logan's hands tightened on the table. I know it sounds insane, but this is the only thing that keeps me from falling apart. Ava reached across the table and placed her hand over his. It's not insane, she said. It's love. Logan's eyes met hers, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something in them that wasn't just sadness. It was hope. They sat there until closing, talking in low voices about loss and promises, about the weight of memory and the work of moving forward. When Marla finally turned off the lights, they walked out together into the cool October night. Thank you, Logan said. For what? For not letting me disappear. Ava smiled. Some things don't need to be seen to be kept, but some things do. Logan laughed softly. Yeah. I guess you're right. They stood there in the parking lot, two strangers who weren't strangers anymore, and for the first time in 3 years, Logan felt something shift. Not an ending, a beginning. The parking lot was empty except for Logan's truck, a Ford F-150 that had seen better years, and Ava's sedan. The street lamp overhead buzzed and flickered, casting uneven shadows across the asphalt. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked twice and went silent. I should go, Ava said, but she didn't move. Logan nodded. Yeah, me too. Neither of them moved. Can I ask you something? Ava said finally. You've been asking me things all night. One more. Logan smiled slightly. Go ahead. Your son. What's his name? Ethan. How old is he? That's 2 questions. But his voice was gentle. He's 7. Just started 2nd grade. Ava pictured a small boy with Logan's gray eyes, sitting with a babysitter while his father kept a weekly appointment with grief. Does he know about this? He knows I go out every Friday. He doesn't know why. Logan's expression tightened. I don't know how to explain it to him. How do you tell a 7-year-old that you're having dinner with his mother's memory? Maybe you don't have to explain it, Ava said. Maybe he just needs to know you're okay. I'm not sure I am. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. You're here, Ava said. That counts for something. Logan looked at her for a long moment. Why do you care? It was the question she'd been asking herself for weeks. She still didn't have a good answer. I don't know, she said. Maybe because I see someone trying really hard to keep a promise, and I respect that. Or maybe because I spend so much time chasing things that don't matter, and you're doing the opposite. What are you chasing? Ava laughed, a short, bitter sound. Promotions, validation, some imaginary finish line that keeps moving every time I get close. She shook her head. I work 60-hour weeks analyzing market trends for a firm that'll replace me the second I slow down. I can't remember the last time I did something that actually meant anything. And watching a stranger eat alone in a diner means something? More than anything else I've done lately. Logan studied her, and she had the uncomfortable sensation of being truly seen, maybe for the first time in years. You want to get coffee? He asked. Ava blinked. Now? There's a place 2 blocks from here. Stays open until midnight. She should have said no. It was late, she had work in the morning, and she'd already spent too much time on this strange detour from her regular life. But she heard herself say, okay. The coffee shop was called The Grind, a name that had probably seemed clever 20 years ago and now just seemed tired. It occupied the ground floor of an old brick building with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls that ranged from genuinely interesting to aggressively amateur. A college-aged barista with a nose ring and an expression of profound boredom took their order. Logan ordered black coffee. Ava got a latte she didn't really want. They sat at a table near the window watching the occasional car pass by on the empty street. "So you're an analyst," Logan said. "What does that actually mean?" "It means I spend all day staring at spreadsheets and trying to predict whether people are going to buy things they don't need." "Sounds thrilling." "It's not." Ava wrapped her hands around her cup. "But it pays well, and it's impressive at dinner parties, and it made my parents stop asking when I was going to get a real job." "What would a real job be?" "I don't know. Something useful, probably. Teaching, medicine, building things." She gestured vaguely. "You're an engineer, right? Marla mentioned it once." Logan raised an eyebrow. "You were asking about me?" Ava felt her face heat. She volunteered the information. Sure she did, but he was smiling. "I was an engineer, structural, bridges mostly. I worked for a firm in the city, made good money, had a corner office, all of it." "What happened?" "Claire got sick. Stage 4 by the time they found it." His voice went flat. "I took leave to take care of her. Then she died, and I had a 6-month-old who needed me, and going back to the office felt impossible. So I didn't." "What did you do instead?" "Took a job at a machine shop. 40 hours a week, no travel, decent benefits. It's not what I trained for, but it lets me be home for Ethan." He shrugged. "Most people think I wasted my degree. Maybe I did." "You didn't," Ava said firmly. "You chose your son over your career. That's not wasting anything." Logan looked at her with something like surprise. "You really believe that?" "Don't you?" He was quiet for a moment. "Some days. Other days I wonder if I'm just hiding, if I gave up too easily." "Did you?" "I don't know." He took a sip of coffee. "I tell myself I'm being a good father, putting him first. But maybe I'm just scared. Maybe I'm using him as an excuse to not move forward." "Or maybe you're doing the best you can with an impossible situation," Ava said. "You lost your wife. You're raising a child alone. You're allowed to not have it all figured out. Are you always this direct?" "Only when I'm right." Logan laughed, a real laugh this time, and Ava felt something warm spread through her chest. "What about you?" Logan asked. "Why the 60-hour weeks? You climbing the corporate ladder or running from something?" Ava bristled. "That's a hell of an assumption. You said yourself your job doesn't mean anything, so why do it?" She wanted to deflect, to give him a polished answer about ambition and career goals. But sitting across from someone who'd just laid his own struggles bare, dishonesty felt wrong. "My parents were immigrants," she said. "Came here with nothing, worked themselves to exhaustion, so I could have opportunities they didn't. My whole life I've heard the same message. Don't waste what we gave you. Be successful. Be more." "And you think working yourself to death is what they want?" "I think it's what they expect." "That's not the same thing." Ava looked away. "Maybe not." They sat in silence for a while, sipping coffee that had gone lukewarm, watching the night settle deeper over the empty street. "Can I tell you something?" Logan said eventually. "Of course." "When Claire was dying, she made me promise a lot of things. The Friday dinners were just one. She also made me promise I'd let Ethan see me be happy again someday, that I wouldn't let grief turn me into someone who just goes through the motions." "And have you? Been happy?" Logan considered this. "Not happy, exactly, but not drowning either. I get up every morning. I make Ethan breakfast. I go to work. I come home and help with homework and read him stories and tuck him in, and some days that feels like enough. But not every day. No. Not every day." Ava reached across the table and touched his hand. "The fact that you're still trying counts for something." Logan turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. "So does showing up to a random diner every Friday to check on a stranger." "I wasn't checking on you." "Yes, you were." She couldn't argue with that. They stayed until the barista started stacking chairs on tables, a not-so-subtle hint that closing time had arrived. Outside, the temperature had dropped, and Ava pulled her jacket tighter around herself. "Thank you," Logan said. "For tonight." For listening. Thank you for actually talking. He smiled. I don't usually. I noticed. They stood there in the cold, breath misting in the air between them, and Ava realized she didn't want the night to end. Can I ask you something else? She said. You're full of questions tonight. Last one, I promise. Go ahead. Would you mind if I came back next Friday to the diner? Logan looked surprised. Why would you do that? Because I think you could use the company, and honestly, so could I. He studied her face, searching for something. Whatever he found must have satisfied him because he nodded slowly. Okay? Okay? Yeah, okay. Ava felt a smile break across her face, wide and genuine and completely involuntary. Same time? Same time. They said goodnight and went to their separate cars. As Ava drove home, she caught herself humming along to the radio, something she hadn't done in months. When she got home to her apartment, a small one-bedroom that was tastefully furnished and utterly impersonal, she stood in the kitchen and replayed the entire evening in her mind. The conversation, the coffee, the way Logan had looked at her when she said she wanted to come back. She pulled out her phone and typed out a text to her best friend Rachel. I think I just made a friend. Rachel responded immediately. At 11 p.m. on a Friday, this better be good. Ava smiled and typed back. I'll tell you tomorrow. She went to bed feeling lighter than she had in years. The next Friday, Ava arrived at the diner at 6:55 p.m. She felt nervous in a way that seemed absurd. This was just dinner with someone who'd been a stranger 2 weeks ago. But her palms were sweaty, and she'd changed her outfit 3 times before leaving. Logan was already there, sitting in his usual booth. When he saw her walk in, something in his expression softened. You came, he said. I said I would. People say a lot of things. Ava slid into the seat across from him, the seat that had held an untouched meal for 3 years. I'm not most people. I'm starting to realize that. Marla appeared with her notepad, eyebrows raised. Well, this is new. 2 specials, Logan said, but we're both eating tonight. Marla's expression shifted into something that might have been approval. About damn time. She disappeared into the kitchen, and Logan looked at Ava. I've been thinking about what you said, he told her, about Claire wanting me to be happy again. Yeah? I don't know if I'm ready for that, but maybe I'm ready to try. Ava felt her throat tighten. That's all anyone can ask. The food came. This time, both plates were eaten. They talked about Ethan, how he was obsessed with dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist when he grew up. They talked about Ava's job and the presentation she had coming up that was making her lose sleep. They talked about nothing and everything, the conversation flowing easily, punctuated by laughter and comfortable silences. At one point, Logan looked at the empty seat beside Ava and said, It feels different, having someone actually sit there. Good different or bad different? I'm not sure yet, he paused, but not bad. When they left that night, Logan walked Ava to her car. Same time next week, he asked. Absolutely. As she drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror and saw him standing in the parking lot, hands in his pockets, watching her leave. And for the first time since she'd met him, he didn't look quite so alone. Mark. The Fridays became a fixture in both their lives. Week after week, they met at the diner, and slowly, carefully, they began to build something neither of them had planned for. Logan talked about the early days after Claire died, when he could barely function, when getting out of bed felt like an Olympic event. He talked about the guilt he felt on the days when he didn't think about her, the fear that forgetting even the smallest detail meant he was betraying her memory. Ava talked about the pressure she felt to be perfect, to justify her parents' sacrifices, to prove she was worth the life they'd worked so hard to give her. She talked about the emptiness that came with achievement, the way every promotion left her feeling less fulfilled rather than more. It's like I'm climbing a mountain, she said one night, pushing cold fries around her plate. And I keep thinking when I get to the top, I'll finally feel like I've made it. But every time I reach what I think is the summit, I realize there's another peak beyond it. So stop climbing, Logan said. It's not that simple. Why not? Because if I stop, what was the point of all the climbing I already did? Logan considered this. Maybe the point wasn't the destination. Maybe it was figuring out you were climbing the wrong mountain. Ava stared at him. That's either very wise or completely insane. Can't it be both? She laughed despite herself. On. 6 weeks after that first conversation in the parking lot, Ava met Ethan. It happened by accident. She'd arrived at the diner early and was sitting in her car, answering emails on her phone, when Logan pulled up with a small boy in the back seat. She watched as Logan got out, opened the back door, and unbuckled a child with dark curly hair and a Spider-Man backpack. The babysitter must have canceled. Ava's first instinct was to leave, to give Logan his space, his ritual, his Friday night without complications. But before she could start her car, Logan spotted her. He looked uncertain, caught between two worlds that weren't supposed to intersect. Ava got out of her car and walked over. "Hey," she said. "Hey." Logan glanced down at Ethan, who was staring at Ava with open curiosity. "Ethan, this is my friend Ava. Ava, this is my son." "Hi, Ethan," Ava said, crouching down to his eye level. "I like your backpack." "Thanks. Do you like Spider-Man?" "I think he's pretty cool. He's the best superhero, way better than Batman." Bold statement. Ethan grinned, revealing a gap where he'd recently lost a tooth. Logan cleared his throat. "I can take him home if—" "Don't be ridiculous," Ava said, standing up. "Come on, let's get dinner." They went inside and Marla took one look at the three of them and smiled so wide it looked like it hurt. "Well, look at this," she said. "A full table." Ethan sat next to Logan, across from Ava, and immediately launched into a detailed explanation of the T-Rex skeleton he'd seen at the Natural History Museum. Ava listened with genuine interest, asking questions, letting him talk, and when she glanced at Logan, she saw something in his face that made her chest ache. He looked grateful and terrified and hopeful. After dinner, Ethan fell asleep in the booth, his head resting on Logan's arm. "Sorry," Logan said quietly. "He usually makes it past 8. "It's okay." Ava looked at the sleeping child, his face peaceful and untroubled. "He's sweet. He's the best thing I ever did." "I believe that." Logan carefully shifted Ethan into a better position. "I was worried about tonight, bringing him here. I didn't want to mess up the routine." "Did it feel messed up?" He thought about it. "No, it felt different, but in a good way." "Good different?" Logan smiled. "Yeah, good different. Man." Over the next few weeks, Ethan became part of the Friday tradition. Sometimes the babysitter was available. Sometimes she wasn't. On the nights when Ethan came along, the dynamic shifted. Less deep conversation, more dinosaur facts and silly jokes. But Ava found she didn't mind. There was something grounding about the presence of a child, something that pulled her out of her own head and into the present moment. One Friday, Ethan looked at her very seriously across the table and said, "Are you my dad's girlfriend?" Ava nearly choked on her water. Logan turned bright red. "Ethan, that's not— you can't just—" "It's okay," Ava said, recovering. She looked at Ethan. "Your dad and I are friends." "Oh." Ethan seemed to process this. "Do you want to be his girlfriend?" "Ethan!" Logan looked mortified. But Ava just laughed. "You know what? I haven't really thought about it." It was a lie. She'd thought about it a lot. But she wasn't about to have that conversation with a 7-year-old as her intermediary. Later, after they'd dropped Ethan off at home and were standing in the diner parking lot again, Logan apologized for the 100th time. "He doesn't have a filter," Logan said. "I'm working on it." "Don't," Ava said. "I like that he says what he's thinking. Even when he's asking invasive questions? Especially then." Logan ran a hand through his hair. "For what it's worth, I have thought about it." Ava's heart skipped. "About what?" "About whether we're just friends." The air between them felt suddenly charged. "And?" Ava managed. "And I don't know." Logan looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I haven't thought about anyone that way since Claire. I didn't think I could. But then you showed up and wouldn't leave me alone, and now I don't know what this is." "Does it have to be anything?" Ava asked. "Can it just be what it is?" "And what is it?" She stepped closer. "I think it's two people who were both stuck in their own ways, and somehow ended up unstuck together. That's a terrible definition. You got a better one?" Logan smiled. "No, I really don't." They stood there in the cold December air, close enough that Ava could see the silver threading through his hair, the lines at the corners of his eyes, the tiny scar on his chin she'd never noticed before. "Can I try something?" Logan asked quietly. Okay. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. The kiss was soft, tentative, like a question being asked. Ava answered by kissing him back, her hands finding the front of his jacket, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, Logan rested his forehead against hers. Good different, he whispered. Yeah, Ava said, smiling. Good different. The weeks that followed were a strange, wonderful blur. They didn't put a label on what they were. Neither of them seemed ready for that. But Friday nights became something more than ritual. They became something to look forward to. Ava started keeping a change of clothes in her car so she could come straight from work. Logan started texting her during the week, little things. A photo of something Ethan had drawn, a meme he thought she'd find funny, a song he heard that reminded him of her. She met his small circle of friends, other parents from Ethan's school, people who'd known Claire and looked at Ava with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Some warmed to her immediately. Others kept their distance, as if her presence was an insult to Claire's memory. Logan noticed. They'll come around, he said one night after a particularly awkward school fundraiser where one of Claire's best friends had barely acknowledged Ava's existence. It's fine, Ava said, but her voice was tight. It's not fine. Sarah was rude. She loved Claire, I get it. That doesn't give her the right to… Logan, it's okay. Ava squeezed his hand. I'm not trying to replace anyone. I'm just trying to be here. I know that, and I'm grateful for it. But as they drove home that night, Ava couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking on ground that would never fully be hers, that no matter how much time passed, she would always be the woman who came after. 3 months into whatever they were calling this, Ava's job exploded. Her company landed a massive account, the kind that could make careers, and Ava was tapped to lead the analysis team. It meant longer hours, weekend work, constant availability. It meant everything she'd been working toward for years. It also meant missing Fridays. The first time she had to cancel, Logan said he understood. The second time, his voice was a little tighter. The third time, he didn't answer her call. She showed up at the diner anyway, at 8:30, knowing she'd already missed dinner but hoping he'd still be there. He was, sitting alone in the back booth, the second plate untouched again. Ava felt her stomach drop. She slid into the seat across from him without asking. I'm sorry, she said. Logan didn't look up. You said that last week. I mean it. I know you do. This project is important, Logan. It could… I know, he said, cutting her off. I know it's important. I know your career matters. But this mattered too. It still does. Does it? He finally met her eyes. Because it feels like the second something shinier came along, you were gone. Ava flinched. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. They sat in tense silence. Marla walked by, saw the untouched plate, and kept going without a word. I thought we were building something, Logan said quietly. I thought this meant something to you. It does, Ava insisted. You do. Then act like it. I'm here now, aren't I? 2 hours late, after missing 3 weeks in a row. Logan shook his head. I did this once already, Ava. I let my career take over my life, and I lost everything that mattered. I'm not doing it again, and I'm not watching you do it either. So what are you saying? I'm saying I need someone who's actually present, not someone who squeezes me in between conference calls. Ava felt anger flare in her chest. You know what? Maybe I can't be that person. Maybe I have responsibilities that don't disappear just because it's Friday. And maybe I have a son who's starting to ask why you don't come around anymore. That stopped her cold. Ethan asked about me? Logan's expression softened slightly. Every day this week. Ava felt tears prick her eyes. I didn't know. How could you? You haven't been here. They sat there, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down between them. Finally, Ava spoke. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I don't know how to be the person you need and still be the person I've spent my whole life becoming. Maybe you don't have to choose, Logan said. Maybe you just have to figure out what actually matters. And if I can't? He looked at her for a long moment. Then I guess we have our answer. Ava left the diner that night with tears streaming down her face, not sure if she'd just ended something before it ever really began. Ava didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation over and over, searching for the moment where everything had gone wrong. But the truth was, there hadn't been a single moment. It had been a slow accumulation of choices, each one seemingly reasonable in isolation, that had added up to something she hadn't intended. She'd thought she could have both. The career she'd built, the life she'd planned, and this unexpected thing with Logan and Ethan. But Logan was right. She hadn't been present. She'd been squeezing them into the margins of her calendar, treating Friday nights like another obligation to check off. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A work email. Her boss asking for revisions on the presentation she'd already revised twice. She started to reach for it, then stopped. What was she doing? She thought about Logan sitting alone in that booth again, the second plate untouched, returning to a ritual he'd almost moved past. She thought about Ethan asking why she didn't come around anymore. She thought about the version of herself from 6 months ago, before the diner, before Logan, when her entire life had fit neatly into a spreadsheet and she'd called that success. That version of herself had been miserable. She picked up her phone, but instead of opening the email, she called Rachel. "It's 2 a.m, Rachel answered, voice thick with sleep. "I think I'm screwing up my life." There was rustling on the other end, the sound of Rachel sitting up. "Okay, I'm listening." Ava told her everything. The diner, Logan, the untouched meals, the Friday nights that had become the only thing she looked forward to. The project at work that was supposed to be her big break. The fight. When she finished, Rachel was quiet for a long moment. "You want my honest opinion?" Rachel said finally. "That's why I called. You've spent your entire adult life trying to prove you're worth something. To your parents, to your bosses, to yourself. And the second you found something that made you feel like you were worth something just by existing, you sabotaged it." Ava felt like she'd been punched. "That's not..." "Yes, it is," Rachel said, not unkindly. "You're terrified of anything you can't control or measure or put on a performance review. This thing with Logan, it's messy and complicated and you can't predict how it's going to turn out. So you're running back to what feels safe." "My job isn't safe. It's cutthroat." "Exactly. Which means you know the rules. You know how to win. But relationships? There's no roadmap for those. And that scares the hell out of you." Ava pressed the heel of her hand against her eyes. "So, what do I do?" "You figure out what you actually want. Not what you think you should want. What you want." After they hung up, Ava sat in the dark of her apartment and asked herself Rachel's question. What did she want? The answer came faster than she expected. She wanted Friday nights at a crappy diner. She wanted to hear about Ethan's dinosaur facts and Logan's quiet observations about the world. She wanted to feel the way she felt when Logan looked at her, like she was enough exactly as she was. But she also wanted to be proud of her work. She wanted to prove that her parents' sacrifices hadn't been wasted. She wanted to build something that mattered. The problem was, she'd been treating those two things as mutually exclusive. Maybe they didn't have to be. She opened her laptop and started typing an email to her boss. Her hand shook slightly as she wrote, but her mind was clear. When she hit send 20 minutes later, she felt simultaneously terrified and liberated. Then she texted Logan, "Can we talk?" He didn't respond. She tried calling, voicemail. She thought about driving to his house, but it was almost 3 a.m, and showing up unannounced felt like exactly the kind of dramatic gesture that would make things worse instead of better. So she waited. The next morning, Saturday, she woke to a text from her boss. "Are you sure about this?" She typed back, "Yes." Her phone rang immediately. "Ava, I need you to think very carefully about what you're asking," her boss said without preamble. "This is a career-defining project. If you step back now, I'm not stepping back," Ava interrupted. "I'm asking for boundaries. I'll deliver everything you need, but not at the expense of my entire life." "That's not how this works." "Then maybe it should work differently." There was a long pause. "You're serious?" "Completely." Another pause. "We'll discuss this on Monday." The call ended and Ava sat on her couch feeling her heart race. She'd just potentially torpedoed her career. The smart, safe, strategic thing would be to call back, apologize, say she'd been emotional and wasn't thinking clearly. She didn't. Instead, she got dressed, got in her car, and drove to Logan's house. She'd been there once before, briefly, when she'd helped Logan carry in groceries after a trip to the store. It was a small ranch-style house in a neighborhood where the yards were mostly well kept and the cars in the driveways were practical rather than flashy. The kind of place where people actually knew their neighbors' names. Logan's truck was in the driveway. She parked behind it and sat for a moment, trying to figure out what she was going to say. Before she could decide, the front door opened and Ethan came running out, still in his pajamas. "Ava!" He launched himself at her as soon as she got out of the car. "You're here!" She caught him in a hug, surprised by how much she'd missed him. "Hey, buddy. Dad said you were busy with work." "I was, but I'm not anymore." "Does that mean you can come to my soccer game today? Please?" Dad said probably not, but maybe you're not probably not anymore? Ava looked up and saw Logan standing in the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "I don't know if your dad wants me here," she said quietly. Ethan turned to Logan. "Dad, Ava can come to my game, right?" Logan's jaw tightened. "Ethan, go inside and get dressed. Game's in an hour." "But, now please." Ethan looked between them, clearly sensing the tension, and reluctantly went back inside. Logan walked down the driveway, stopping a few feet from Ava. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept either. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I know. I meant what I said last night. I know that too." Ava took a breath. "I talked to my boss this morning. I set boundaries, real ones. No more weekend work unless it's an actual emergency. No more being on call 24/7. I might lose my job over it, but I'm done living like that." Logan's expression shifted slightly. "Why?" "Because you were right. I was so busy chasing the next thing that I forgot to actually live. And I don't want to do that anymore." "So this is about me?" "No," Ava said. "This is about me finally figuring out what matters. You just helped me see it." Logan was quiet for a moment, studying her face. "You really told your boss no?" "I really did. That's terrifying." "I'm aware." A small smile tugged at his mouth. "How do you feel?" "Like I'm going to throw up, but also like I can breathe for the first time in years." She stepped closer. "Logan, I'm sorry for disappearing, for making you feel like you weren't a priority. You are, you and Ethan both." "Words are easy, Ava." "I know, so let me prove it. Let me come to the soccer game. And next Friday, I'll be at the diner at 7, and the Friday after that. Not because it's an obligation, but because it's where I want to be." Logan looked at her for a long moment, and she could see him weighing it, deciding whether to trust her again. "Okay," he said finally. "Okay?" "Yeah, okay." He reached out and took her hand. "But if you disappear again, I won't." "You don't know that." "No," Ava admitted. "But I'm going to try really hard not to." Logan pulled her into a hug, and she felt the tension drain from her body. "You're really coming to the game?" he said into her hair. "Unless you don't want me there, I want you there." From inside the house, they heard Ethan yell, "Are you guys done talking? Because I'm dressed and we're going to be late." Logan laughed and pulled back. "You ready for youth soccer? How bad can it be? You have no idea." It turned out youth soccer was chaos. Organized chaos, maybe, but chaos nonetheless. 27-year-olds running in a pack after a ball with only a vague understanding of the rules, parents yelling conflicting instructions from the sidelines, a ref who looked like he was reconsidering all his life choices. Ethan played midfielder, which seemed to mean he ran back and forth a lot without touching the ball much. But he was enthusiastic about it, and every time he looked over at the sideline and saw Ava and Logan watching, his face lit up. "He's not very good, is he?" Ava whispered to Logan. "Terrible," Logan agreed, "but he loves it." In the second half, Ethan actually got the ball. He dribbled it approximately 3 feet before another kid stole it, but he looked so proud of those 3 feet that Ava found herself cheering like he'd scored a goal. Logan looked at her with amusement. "You're really into this." "I have no idea what's happening, but I'm very invested in the outcome." They lost 4-1, but Ethan came running off the field grinning anyway. "Did you see me get the ball?" "We saw," Logan said. "You were great." "I was okay," Ethan corrected. "But I'll be better next week. Coach said I need to practice passing." He looked at Ava. "Will you practice with me?" "I don't know anything about soccer." "That's okay. You just have to kick the ball back." "I think I can manage that." "Cool." Ethan grabbed both their hands. "Can we get ice cream?" Logan raised an eyebrow at Ava. "You sure you're up for this? He'll want to dissect every second of the game, I'm sure. They went to a small ice cream place near the soccer field, the kind with picnic tables outside and a menu board that still had prices from 5 years ago. Ethan got chocolate with rainbow sprinkles and proceeded to give a play-by-play analysis of the entire game while his ice cream melted down his hand. Ava and Logan sat side by side, their shoulders touching, and for the first time in months, Ava felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. "Thank you," Logan said quietly while Ethan was distracted by a dog walking past. "For what?" "For showing up." "I should have done it sooner." "You're doing it now. That's what matters." Monday morning, Ava walked into her boss's office expecting to be fired. Instead, she was offered a compromise. She could keep the lead on the project, but they'd bring in a co-lead to handle the weekend and after-hours work. It meant sharing credit, sharing control, and accepting that she wasn't indispensable. It also meant she could have her life back. "Thank you," she told her boss. He looked at her with something like respect. "You know, when you first started here, I thought you'd burn out in 6 months. Too intense, too driven, but you didn't. I came close. And now I'm trying to figure out how to be ambitious without destroying myself in the process. Let me know if you figure it out. I could use the advice." That Friday, Ava arrived at the diner at 6:55 p.m. Logan was already there, sitting in his usual booth, but this time he was reading a book while he waited. He looked up when she walked in and smiled. "You came," he said. "I told you I would." "I know, but it's still nice." She slid into the seat across from him. "Where's Ethan?" "With the sitter. I thought maybe it could just be us tonight." "I like that." Marla appeared with her notepad, looking pleased. "Two specials?" "Yes, ma'am," Logan said. When the food came, both plates were eaten. They talked about Logan's week at the machine shop, about a problem with one of the lathes that took him 2 days to diagnose. They talked about Ava's project, which was actually going better now that she wasn't trying to do everything herself. "I was thinking," Logan said as they were finishing their meal, "what if we change this up sometimes? Not every Friday has to be the diner." Ava felt a flutter of something in her chest. "What did you have in mind?" "I don't know, movies, mini-golf? That terrible pizza place Ethan loves." "Whatever." "You mean like dates?" Logan's ears turned slightly red. "I guess I do. I'd like that." "Yeah?" "Yeah." They were quiet for a moment, and then Logan reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm scared," he admitted, "of getting attached, of letting you into Ethan's life more than you already are, of what happens if this doesn't work out." "I'm scared too," Ava said. "I've never done this before. The relationship thing, I'm probably going to mess it up." "Probably. But I want to try anyway." "Me too." They left the diner that night hand in hand, and when Logan kissed her goodnight in the parking lot, it felt less like a question and more like a promise. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a new rhythm. Friday nights were still sacred, but they expanded beyond the diner. They took Ethan to the Children's Museum. They went to a terrible local production of a musical where half the cast forgot their lines. They had quiet dinners after Ethan went to bed, where they talked about everything and nothing. Ava met more of Logan's friends, and slowly, the ones who'd been standoffish began to warm up. Sarah, Claire's best friend, even pulled Ava aside one night after a school event. "I owe you an apology," Sarah said. "I was horrible to you when we first met." "It's okay. It's not okay. I loved Claire and I wasn't ready to see Logan with someone else. But you make him happy, and you're good with Ethan. I can't ask for more than that." "Thank you," Ava said, surprised by how much the words meant to her. "Just don't hurt them," Sarah added. "Because if you do, I will make your life very difficult." Ava believed her. But things weren't perfect. They had arguments about stupid things, where to eat, how to spend Sunday afternoons, whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie. They had bigger arguments too, about boundaries and expectations, and the fact that Logan still sometimes withdrew into himself when he was overwhelmed. One night in early February, Ava was at Logan's house helping Ethan with a school project about the solar system when Logan's phone rang. He looked at the screen and his entire body went tense. "I need to take this," he said, and disappeared into the bedroom. He was gone for 20 minutes. When he came back, his face was drawn. "Everything okay?" Ava asked. Fine, he said shortly. Logan? It's fine, Ava. Just drop it. Ethan looked between them, sensing the shift in mood. I should probably go, Ava said quietly. Logan didn't argue. She texted him later that night. What happened? He didn't respond. She tried calling the next morning. Voicemail. By Sunday, she was worried enough to show up at his house unannounced. Logan answered the door looking like he hadn't slept. We need to talk, Ava said. Now's not a good time. I don't care. You're shutting me out again, and I need to know why. Logan looked like he wanted to argue, but then his shoulders sagged. Come in. Ethan was at a friend's house. They sat on Logan's couch, the same couch where Ava had helped with homework 2 nights ago, and it felt like a completely different place. The call on Friday was from Claire's mother, Logan said finally. She wants to see Ethan more. She thinks I'm not doing enough to keep Claire's memory alive for him. Ava's chest tightened. What did you tell her? I told her we'd figure something out. He ran his hands through his hair. She's right, though. I haven't talked to Ethan about his mom as much as I should. I don't know how. Every time I try, I just freeze up. Have you talked to anyone about this? A therapist? I did, for a while. After Claire died. It helped, but then I stopped going because I thought I was doing okay. Maybe you should go back. Logan looked at her. Is that your way of saying I'm not okay? It's my way of saying you've been carrying this alone for 4 years, and maybe you don't have to anymore. I'm not alone. I have you. I'm not a therapist, Logan. I can't fix this for you. I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm just... He broke off, frustrated. I don't know what I'm asking. They sat in silence for a moment. I think you're scared, Ava said carefully. That if you move on too much, you'll lose Claire completely. That if Ethan stops asking about her every day, it means she didn't matter. Logan's eyes filled with tears. She mattered. She matters. I know that, and Ethan will always know that, but you can honor her memory without living in it. How? I don't know, but maybe that's something to figure out with someone who's trained to help with that kind of thing. Logan was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Okay. Okay. I'll call my old therapist, set up an appointment. Ava reached for his hand. Thank you. For what? For letting me in. For not shutting me out this time. Logan pulled her close, and they sat like that for a while, not talking, just being together in the messy, complicated reality of trying to build something new while honoring what came before. The next Friday, Logan brought Ethan to the diner. Halfway through the meal, Ethan looked at the table and said, Dad, how come we don't have the extra plate anymore? Logan and Ava exchanged glances. What extra plate? Logan asked carefully. The one you used to get. Every Friday. I remember seeing it when I came with the babysitter once. Logan set down his fork. That was for your mom. Why'd you stop? Because Ava started sitting there instead. Ethan processed this. Is that okay? With Mom. Logan's voice was thick when he answered. I think so, yeah. I think your mom would want us to keep living, to let new people into our lives. Do you think she would have liked Ava? Ava held her breath. Logan looked at her, and she saw something soft in his expression. I think she would have. Your mom always liked people who didn't give up easily, and Ava doesn't give up. Even when things are hard? Ethan asked. Especially then. Ethan seemed satisfied with this answer and returned to his chicken fingers, but Ava felt tears prick her eyes. Later in the parking lot, she said, Thank you for what you said in there. I meant it, Logan said. Claire would have liked you. She would have appreciated that you pushed me to be better. I don't want to replace her. You're not. You're just helping me figure out how to keep going. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, and Ava felt something settle into place inside her chest. This was what she'd been searching for all along. Not perfection, not some imaginary finish line. Just this. Messy, complicated, real connection with people who saw her completely and chose her anyway. The following week, Logan had his first therapy session in 3 years. He came home exhausted but lighter somehow. How was it? Ava asked. She'd volunteered to watch Ethan during the appointment. Hard. Good. Both. Logan collapsed on the couch next to her. We talked about Claire, about the guilt I still carry, about how to help Ethan understand his mom without making her into someone untouchable. That sounds healthy. It was terrifying. The best things usually are. Logan laughed. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just figuring it out as I go. Aren't we all? That night, after they put Ethan to bed, Logan showed Ava a photo album he'd put together. Pictures of Claire pregnant, Claire holding newborn Ethan, Claire laughing at something off camera. She looked vibrant and alive and nothing like the perfect memory Ava had built in her head. She was real, Ava said softly. Yeah, she was. Logan touched one of the photos gently. I think I've been so focused on not forgetting her that I forgot to let Ethan see the whole person, the good parts and the messy parts. You can start now. I think I will. He closed the album and pulled Ava close. Thank you for sticking around, for not running when things got complicated. Where would I go? Ava said. This is the least complicated my life has ever felt. We're literally navigating grief and dead wife territory. How is this not complicated? Because it's honest. And I'll take honest and messy over perfect and fake. Any day. Logan kissed her forehead. I'm falling in love with you, you know. Ava's breath caught. Yeah? Yeah. Good, she whispered. Because I'm falling in love with you too. They sat together in the quiet of Logan's living room, and for the first time in either of their lives, the future felt less like something to chase and more like something to build, one honest, messy day at a time. Spring arrived with the kind of weather that made people forget winter had ever happened. The trees along Mercer Street burst into green overnight, and the diner started leaving its windows open, letting in air that smelled like cut grass and possibility. Ava had been with Logan for 5 months now, though with still felt like an inadequate word for what they were building. They hadn't labeled it, hadn't made any grand declarations beyond that night on his couch. But her toothbrush lived in his bathroom now, and she had a drawer in his dresser, and Ethan had stopped asking when she was leaving and started assuming she'd be there for dinner. It felt right. It also felt terrifying. On a Tuesday in late April, Ava's phone rang during lunch. Her mother's name appeared on the screen, and Ava's stomach immediately knotted. Her parents called exactly once a week, on Sunday evenings, a ritual as precise as Logan's Friday dinners used to be. A Tuesday call meant something was wrong. Mom, what happened? Nothing happened. Can I call my daughter? Her mother's accent was still thick after 30 years in the country, vowels shaped differently than Ava's. You can. You just usually don't, on Tuesdays. Your father and I are coming to visit, next weekend. Ava nearly dropped her phone. What? Why? We need a reason to see our only child? No, but you never just show up. You always plan months in advance. There was a pause on the other end. Your father has a doctor's appointment nearby. We thought we'd stop in. What kind of doctor's appointment? Nothing serious, just a checkup. Ava knew her mother well enough to hear the lie. Mom, we'll arrive Friday evening. I'll text you the details. The line went dead. Ava sat in her car in the parking lot of a sandwich shop, her half-eaten lunch forgotten, and felt panic rise in her throat. Her parents were coming, which meant they'd meet Logan and Ethan, which meant they'd have opinions about the fact that she was dating a widower with a child, that she'd set boundaries at work, that she'd chosen a life that didn't look anything like what they'd sacrificed everything for her to have. She called Logan. Hey, he answered. What's up? My parents are coming this weekend. Okay. That's good, right? No, it's not good. It's a disaster. Why? Because they're going to meet you and judge everything and tell me I'm wasting my life. Logan was quiet for a moment. Do you think you're wasting your life? No? Then what they think doesn't matter. Easy for you to say. Your parents aren't immigrant workaholics who spent their entire lives so you could have opportunities they didn't. You're right, my parents are dead. Ava winced. I'm sorry. That was insensitive. It's fine. Look, I get that you're stressed. But Ava, you're 30 years old. You don't need their permission to live your life. I know that, but I still want their approval. Even if getting it means giving up everything that makes you happy? She didn't have an answer for that. That night, Ava lay in Logan's bed. When it had become Logan's bed instead of the bed at Logan's house, and stared at the ceiling while he slept beside her. Through the wall, she could hear the faint sound of Ethan's white noise machine, the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, the creak of the house settling. This had become her life. These sounds, these people, This small, quiet existence that didn't look impressive on paper, but felt like everything. And in 3 days, her parents were going to show up and make her defend it. Friday evening arrived with all the subtlety of a freight train. Ava's parents pulled up to her apartment at exactly 6 o'clock because her father believed being late was a moral failure. Ava watched from her window as they got out of their sensible sedan, her mother carrying a bag of what was undoubtedly homemade food, her father already frowning at the state of the building's exterior. She met them at the door with a hug that felt more obligatory than warm. "You look thin," her mother said immediately. "Are you eating?" "I'm fine, Mom." "She says she's fine," her mother said to her father in Vietnamese, as if Ava wasn't standing right there. "She's always fine until she's not." Her father grunted, which could have meant anything from agreement to indigestion. They came inside, and Ava watched her mother take in the apartment with a practiced eye. The dishes in the sink, the mail piled on the counter, the general disorder of someone who'd been spending most of her time somewhere else. "You're not home much," her mother observed. "I've been busy." "With work?" "With life." Her mother made a sound that wasn't quite disapproval but wasn't approval either. "Your boss called me." Ava's blood went cold. "What? When? Why?" "Last month. He wanted to know if everything was okay with you, said you'd been acting different. He had no right. He was worried, said you used to stay late, volunteer for extra projects. Now you leave at 5 and turn down opportunities." "I set boundaries. That's healthy. Boundaries don't get promotions." "Maybe I don't want a promotion." Her mother stared at her like she'd announced she was joining a cult. "What do you mean you don't want a promotion? That's why you work, to move up." "No, that's why you think I work. I work because I need money to live, but I don't need to kill myself for a corner office I don't even want." "So what do you want?" The question hung in the air, accusatory and sharp. "I want to be happy," Ava said quietly. Her mother's expression hardened. "Happy doesn't pay bills. Happy doesn't honor what we gave up for you." "I never asked you to give up anything." "That's the problem. You never had to ask. We did it anyway." They stared at each other across the small kitchen, years of unspoken expectations creating a gulf neither of them knew how to cross. Her father cleared his throat. "Maybe we should eat." Dinner was tense. Her mother had brought enough food for a week: braised pork, pickled vegetables, rice that was somehow both sticky and fluffy. They ate in near silence, the only sound the scrape of chopsticks against bowls. Finally, her father spoke. "This doctor's appointment your mother mentioned." "It's not just a checkup, is it?" Ava said. "No." He set down his chopsticks. "They found something in my lungs, probably from the factory work." Ava's world tilted. "What kind of something?" "They don't know yet. More tests next week." "Why didn't you tell me?" "We're telling you now." "You should have called. I would have come home." "For what? To worry with us?" Her father shook his head. "You have your own life. You're my parents. And you're busy. Your mother said your boss is concerned about your performance." "I don't care what my boss thinks," Ava interrupted. "If you're sick, if you need me, I'm there. Work doesn't matter." Her parents exchanged a look she couldn't read. "When did this happen?" her mother asked quietly. "When did what happen?" "When did work stop mattering to you?" Ava thought about Logan in the diner, about the untouched plate and the promise he kept for 3 years, about Ethan's gap-toothed smile and his terrible soccer skills, and the way he asked her to practice passing in the backyard, about Friday nights that had become the center of her week instead of an interruption to it. "I met someone," she said. Her mother's eyebrows rose. "A man?" "Yes." "Serious?" "I think so." "You think so? What does that mean?" "It means we haven't labeled it, but I'm at his house more than I'm here. It means his 7-year-old son calls me when he needs help with homework. It means I'm happy in a way I've never been happy before." Her father grunted again. "What does he do?" "He works at a machine shop." "Machine shop," her mother repeated slowly. "Not engineer? Not doctor?" "He is an engineer. Was. He gave it up to raise his son after his wife died." The kitchen went very quiet. "He's a widower?" her mother said. "Yes." "With a child?" "Yes." "Ava, don't," Ava said sharply. "Don't tell me this is a bad idea. Don't tell me I'm taking on too much or settling for less than I deserve. You don't know him." "We don't have to know him to know this is complicated." All the best things are complicated. Her mother shook her head. You always do this. You find the hardest possible path and convince yourself it's noble. That's not what this is. Then what is it? It's love, Mom. It's messy and complicated and sometimes really hard, but it's real and it's mine. Her mother stood abruptly and began clearing dishes with more force than necessary. Her father stayed seated, watching Ava with an expression she couldn't read. We want to meet him, her father said finally. What? This man, this Logan. We want to meet him. I don't think that's a good idea. We didn't ask if it was a good idea. We said we want to meet him. Ava looked at her mother, who had her back turned, scrubbing a dish that was already clean. Mom? Your father's right. If this person is important to you, we should meet him. Tomorrow, her father said. Dinner. Dad. Tomorrow, Ava. There was no arguing with that tone. Ava pulled out her phone and texted Logan. My parents want to meet you tomorrow. I'm so sorry. His response came immediately. Okay, that's it? Just okay? What else would I say? That this is terrifying and you want to run away? I'm not running. We'll figure it out. Ava stared at her phone, at those simple words that made it sound easy when nothing about this felt easy. The next evening, Ava stood in Logan's kitchen watching him cook while Ethan set the table. She'd offered to help, but Logan had gently pushed her toward a bar stool and told her to relax, which was impossible given that her parents would be arriving in 30 minutes. You're going to wear a hole in that counter, Logan said without looking up from the vegetables he was chopping. Ava realized she'd been tapping her fingers in an anxious rhythm. She stopped. Sorry. Don't be sorry. Just breathe. Easy for you to say. Is it? Logan set down the knife and looked at her. Ava, I'm about to meet the parents of the woman I'm in love with. The parents who probably think I'm not good enough for her because I work with my hands instead of my brain. I'm terrified. You work with both. They don't know that. So show them. How? Ava gestured at the kitchen, at the dinner he was preparing from scratch, at the home he'd built for his son. Like this. Just be yourself. What if myself isn't good enough? The vulnerability in his voice made her chest ache. She got up and wrapped her arms around him from behind, pressing her face against his back. You're good enough, she said. You're more than good enough. Ethan appeared in the doorway. Are Ava's parents scary? A little, Ava admitted. Scarier than the dentist? Different kind of scary. But you love them, right? I do. Then it'll be okay. That's what Dad always says. If you love people, you figure it out. Logan and Ava exchanged a look over Ethan's head. When did you get so wise? Logan asked his son. Ethan shrugged. I pay attention. The doorbell rang at exactly 6:30. Of course it did. Ava opened the door to find her parents standing on the porch, her mother holding another bag of food despite the fact that dinner was already prepared, her father in slacks and a button-down shirt he probably hadn't worn since last Christmas. Come in, Ava said, stepping aside. They entered, and Ava watched her mother take in Logan's house with the same assessing gaze she'd used on Ava's apartment. But this house was different. It was clean, but lived in, decorated with Ethan's artwork and family photos, full of signs that real life happened here. Logan came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. He'd changed into a clean shirt, run a hand through his hair, made an effort that Ava appreciated more than she could say. Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair, he said, extending his hand. I'm Logan. It's good to meet you. Ava's father shook his hand, grip firm, face unreadable. Her mother did the same, though her expression was cooler. This is my son, Ethan, Logan said, and Ethan stepped forward with the kind of politeness that suggested Logan had given him a serious talking to about manners. Nice to meet you, Ethan said. Do you like dinosaurs? Ava's mother blinked. I don't know much about dinosaurs. That's okay. I can teach you. Did you know that T-Rex couldn't actually run very fast because their legs were too heavy? I did not know that. Most people don't. Would you like to see my room? I have a really good dinosaur poster. Before anyone could respond, Ethan had taken Ava's mother by the hand and was leading her down the hallway. Ava's mother looked back at Ava with an expression of complete bewilderment. He's enthusiastic, Logan said to Ava's father. I can see that. An awkward silence settled over the living room. Can I get you something to drink? Logan offered. Water? Coffee? Water is fine. Logan disappeared into the kitchen, leaving Ava alone with her father. They stood there, not quite looking at each other. He seems nervous, her father said. He is. So am I. Why? Because I know what you're thinking, that I'm making a mistake, that I should be with someone more ambitious, someone who matches my education, someone who doesn't come with complications. Her father was quiet for a long moment. That's not what I'm thinking. It's not? I'm thinking that this house is clean and well-maintained, that your Logan looks at you the way I look at your mother, that his son has good manners and genuine curiosity. Those things matter more than a job title. Ava felt tears prick her eyes. Really? Really. He paused. But I'm also thinking that you look different, lighter, like you've put down something heavy you were carrying for too long. I have. Good. Logan returned with water, and they moved to the dining room where the table was set with mismatched plates and wildflowers in a mason jar centerpiece. Ethan came back with Ava's mother, who looked slightly shell-shocked. He has 17 dinosaur books, she announced. 18 now, Ethan corrected. Dad got me a new one about pterosaurs last week. They sat down to dinner. Roasted chicken, potatoes, green beans that were actually cooked properly instead of boiled into submission. Logan had made an effort, and it showed. For a while, conversation was stilted, formal. But then Ethan started asking Ava's parents questions, where they were from, what their jobs were, whether they'd ever seen a real dinosaur fossil. And somehow, his 7-year-old lack of filter broke through the tension. My mom died when I was a baby, Ethan said, matter-of-factly at one point. I don't remember her, but Dad says she was really nice and smart and funny. Ava's mother's expression softened. I'm sure she was. Dad talks to her sometimes, not out loud, but in his head. He thinks I don't notice, but I do. Logan looked mortified. Ethan? It's okay, Ethan said. I talk to her too. I tell her about school and soccer and Ava. I think she'd like Ava. The table went quiet. Why do you think that? Ava's mother asked gently. Because Ava makes Dad smile, and she's teaching me fractions, which is really hard, but she's patient about it. And she comes to my soccer games even though we're terrible. Mom would want someone like that around, I think. Ava felt a lump form in her throat. Logan reached under the table and squeezed her hand. Your mom would be very proud of you, Ava's father said to Ethan. You're a good boy. Ethan beamed. After dinner, Ethan asked if he could show Ava's parents his soccer moves in the backyard. To Ava's surprise, her father agreed. She watched through the window as her father, who'd never shown interest in sports, who'd worked 70-hour weeks her entire childhood, stood in the yard while Ethan demonstrated his dribbling technique. Her mother helped Logan clear the table. You don't have to do that, Logan said. I know. Her mother stacked plates with practiced efficiency. Your wife, Claire. How long were you married? Logan's hand stilled on the dish he was holding. 6 years. Knew her for 8. And she was sick for how long? 2 years, but really sick for the last 6 months. That must have been very hard on both of you. It was. Ava's mother was quiet for a moment, washing a plate in the sink. My husband is sick too. We just found out. I'm sorry, Logan said quietly. The doctors say it's treatable, but it's scary. She set the plate in the drying rack. Ava doesn't know how to handle it. She wants to fix everything, make it better. She doesn't understand that some things can't be fixed. They just have to be survived. She's learning, Logan said. Because of you? Because of life. I'm just here while she figures it out. Ava's mother looked at him for a long moment. You love her. It wasn't a question, but Logan answered anyway. Yes, ma'am. And you'll take care of her? Not just when it's easy, but when it's hard? I'll try my best. That's all anyone can do. Her mother dried her hands on a towel. She's always been driven, my Ava. Always pushing herself, trying to prove something. I worried that she'd work herself to death before she figured out what she was working for. She's figuring it out now. I can see that. Her mother glanced out the window at her husband and Ethan in the yard. Thank you for helping her see that there's more to life than achievement. I think she helped me see that too. Ava stood in the doorway listening to this exchange, her heart so full it hurt. Her parents stayed for another hour. Before they left, her father pulled Ava aside. He's a good man, he said simply. I know. Better than I expected. Dad, I mean it as a compliment. You chose well. So you're not disappointed? Her father looked at her with something that might have been sadness. Disappointed? Ava, I'm proud of you. You found something real, something that makes you happy. Why would I be disappointed? Because this isn't what you sacrificed for. We sacrificed so you could have choices. It looks like you're making good ones. After her parents left, Ava helped Logan get Ethan ready for bed. They read him 2 chapters of a book about a boy wizard, listened to him brush his teeth while singing a song he'd learned at school, tucked him in with his favorite stuffed dinosaur. Tonight was good, Ethan said sleepily. I like Ava's parents. They liked you too, Ava said. Is your dad really sick? We don't know yet. He has to have more tests. That's scary. Yeah, it is. But you'll be okay, because you have us now. The simplicity of it, the easy confidence that of course they'd be there for her, made Ava's eyes water. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For sharing your dad with me. Ethan yawned. He's better when you're around. Less sad. After Ethan fell asleep, Logan and Ava sat on the back porch with glasses of wine, listening to the neighborhood settle in for the night. Your mom grilled me in the kitchen, Logan said. I heard. You were eavesdropping. Absolutely. Logan smiled. She's protective of you. She's terrified I'm throwing my life away. Is that what you're doing? Ava thought about her career that had stalled, the promotions she'd turned down, the carefully constructed 5-year plan she'd abandoned. Then she thought about Friday nights at the diner, about Ethan's dinosaur facts, about the way Logan looked at her like she was enough exactly as she was. No, she said. I'm building a different life. A better one. Better than what? Better than the one I was supposed to want. Logan pulled her close, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. My dad's really sick, Ava said after a while. They're trying to act like it's no big deal, but I know my mom. She's terrified. What do you need? I don't know. To be there, I guess. To help somehow. Then we'll figure it out. Together. We. You think I'm letting you do this alone? Ava felt something crack open in her chest. Something she'd been holding tight for so long she'd forgotten it was there. The belief that she had to handle everything herself, that asking for help was weakness, that being needed meant being strong. I'm scared, she admitted. I know. What if he doesn't get better? Then you'll survive it, because that's what people do. They survive. You sound very sure. I've had practice. They sat there on this porch until the wine was gone and the temperature dropped and mosquitoes started appearing. When they finally went inside, Logan locked the door behind them and checked that all the windows were secure, small rituals of caretaking that Ava had come to recognize as his love language. Stay tonight? He asked. I was planning on it. Good. They got ready for bed in the easy rhythm of people who'd done this many times before. Logan set his alarm. Ava plugged in her phone. They brushed their teeth side by side at the bathroom sink, and when Logan caught her eye in the mirror, he smiled. What? Ava asked. Nothing. Just thinking about how different life looks now than it did a year ago. Good different? The best different. They climbed into bed and Logan pulled her close. Ava fit herself against him, her back to his chest, his arm draped over her waist. This position had become theirs, the way they slept when the world felt too big or too scary or just too much. Thank you, Ava said into the darkness. For what? For not giving up on me. When I disappeared, when I chose work over you, you could have walked away. I thought about it, Logan admitted, for about 5 minutes. Then I realized I'd rather have you showing up late than not have you at all. That's either really romantic or kind of pathetic. Can it be both? Ava laughed and turned in his arms to face him. In the dim light from the street lamp outside, she could just make out his features, the gray eyes, the lines at their corners, the small scar on his chin she'd kissed 100 times. I love you, she said. I love you too, even when I'm difficult, especially then. She kissed him, soft and slow, and for a moment the world narrowed to just this, his mouth on hers, his hands in her hair, the solid warmth of him against her. When they broke apart, Logan rested his forehead against hers. "We're going to be okay," he said. "Whatever happens with your dad, whatever comes next, we'll figure it out. Promise?" "Promise." Ava wanted to believe him. And lying there in the dark, wrapped in his arms, listening to Ethan's white noise machine through the wall and the house settling around them, she almost did. The call came 3 weeks later on a Thursday afternoon while Ava was in a meeting about quarterly projections. Her phone buzzed against the conference table, and she glanced down to see her mother's name. She let it go to voicemail. Her mother called again immediately, and Ava's stomach dropped. "I need to take this," she said, already standing. Her co-lead, Marcus, nodded. "We'll continue without you." Ava stepped into the hallway and answered. "Mom? It's cancer." Her mother's voice was flat, drained of everything. "Stage 3. They want to start treatment next week." The hallway tilted. Ava pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself. "Where are you?" "At the hospital. We just met with the oncologist." "I'm coming." "You don't have to." "I'm coming, Mom. Text me which hospital." Ava went back into the conference room, gathered her things without explanation, and left. She was in her car before she realized she was shaking. She sat in the parking garage with her hands on the steering wheel, trying to remember how to breathe. Her phone rang. "Logan." "Hey," she answered, her voice cracking on the single syllable. "What's wrong?" "How did you—" "I can hear it in your voice. What happened?" "My dad. It's cancer. Stage 3. Logan was quiet for a moment. "Where are you?" "About to drive to the hospital, 2 hours away." "Okay, drive safe. Call me when you get there." "Logan?" "Yeah?" "I'm really scared." "I know, baby. I know." The drive to her parents' city was a blur of highway and half-formed thoughts. Ava's mind kept trying to plan, to strategize, to figure out the solution like this was a problem at work that could be solved with the right analysis. But cancer didn't care about spreadsheets or strategic planning. It just was. She found her parents in a waiting room on the 4th floor. Her mother sat rigid in a plastic chair, hands folded in her lap. Her father stared at a television mounted in the corner, playing some daytime talk show with the volume too low to hear. "I'm here," Ava said. Her mother looked up, and for the first time in Ava's memory, her face crumpled. Ava dropped into the chair beside her and wrapped her arms around her mother's small frame. Her mother had always seemed larger than life, formidable and unbreakable. Now she felt fragile, like Ava could crush her if she held too tight. "Tell me everything," Ava said. Her father did, his voice steady but hollow. Non-small cell lung cancer, likely from asbestos exposure at the factory where he'd worked for 20 years. They'd caught it before it spread to other organs, which the doctor said was good, but it was still advanced. Chemotherapy starting next week. Radiation after that. Surgery, maybe, if the treatment shrunk the tumor enough. "What are the odds?" Ava asked. 60%, her father said. 5-year survival rate. 60%. Which meant 40% chance he wouldn't make it 5 years. Ava's mind immediately started calculating. Her father was 62, which meant if he survived, he'd make it to 67. Not enough. Not nearly enough. "What do you need?" Ava asked. "I can take time off work, stay with you during treatment." "You have your own life," her mother said. I don't care about my life. I care about you." "Ava, no. Don't do that thing where you act like you don't need help. You do, and I'm giving it." Her parents exchanged one of their wordless conversations, the kind that came from 40 years of marriage. "We'll talk about it," her father said finally. Ava stayed with them through the evening, listening as doctors came and went with information and instructions. She took notes because her parents seemed overwhelmed, writing down medication names and treatment schedules and phone numbers for oncology nurses. By the time visiting hours ended, she had 3 pages of small, precise handwriting. "I'll come back tomorrow," Ava said. "You don't have to," her mother started, but Ava cut her off. "I'll be here tomorrow. And the day after that. However long you need me." She drove back to Logan's house. When had she started thinking of it as driving home? And arrived after 10. The house was dark, except for the porch light Logan always left on for her. She let herself in with the key he'd given her 2 months ago, a gesture that had felt monumental at the time and now felt like the most natural thing in the world. Logan was on the couch with a book. He set it down when he saw her face. "Come here," he said, opening his arms. Ava collapsed against him and finally let herself cry. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Logan held her through it, one hand stroking her hair, murmuring things she couldn't quite hear but felt anyway. "I don't know how to do this," she said when she could speak again. "You just show up. That's all you can do." "What if showing up isn't enough? What if he dies anyway?" "Then you'll have been there, and that will matter." Ava pulled back to look at him. "How are you so calm about this?" "I'm not calm. I'm terrified for you. But I watched Claire go through treatment, and I learned that you can't control the outcome. You can only control whether you're present for it." "Did being present help? With Claire?" Logan's expression went distant. "I don't know. Maybe." She said it did. She said knowing I was there made it bearable. He refocused on Ava. "But even if it hadn't helped her, it helped me, because at least I knew I'd done everything I could." Ava nodded, wiping her face. "I told them I'd be there tomorrow, and the next day. I don't know how long I'll need to be gone. However long it takes. But Ethan, we'll be fine. We'll figure it out. Your job—" "Ava, stop. We'll figure it out. That's what people who love each other do." She kissed him then, tasting salt from her own tears, and felt something settle in her chest. Not peace exactly, but the knowledge that she wasn't alone in this. The next morning, Ava called her boss from Logan's kitchen while Logan made breakfast. "I need family leave," she said without preamble. "My father has cancer. I don't know how long I'll be gone." There was a pause. "I'm sorry to hear that. How much time do you need?" "I don't know yet. At least a few weeks. Maybe longer." "We'll make it work. Family comes first." Ava almost dropped the phone. "Really?" "Really. You're a good employee, Ava. You've earned some flexibility. Take the time you need." After she hung up, she stared at her phone in disbelief. "What happened?" Logan asked, sliding a plate of eggs in front of her. "My boss just told me to take all the time I need. No guilt trip, no pressure to come back early, just understanding." "That's good, right?" "It's shocking. A year ago, he would have made me feel like taking a single day off was abandoning the team. Maybe you trained him to respect your boundaries." "Maybe." Ava picked at her eggs. "Or maybe I've been so terrified of disappointing people that I never gave them a chance to be decent." Logan sat across from her. "You're learning. That's what matters." Ethan shuffled into the kitchen in his pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction. "Why are you sad?" he asked Ava. "My dad is sick. I'm going to go stay with him for a while to help take care of him." Ethan processed this with the seriousness of someone much older than 7. "Like when Dad took care of me when I had the flu?" "Sort of like that, yeah." "Will you come back?" The question hit Ava harder than it should have. "Of course I'll come back." "When?" "I don't know yet, but I promise I will." Ethan climbed into her lap, something he hadn't done in weeks. "Okay, but you have to text me every day, with pictures, so I know you're okay." Ava hugged him tight. "Deal." She spent the morning packing, throwing clothes into a suitcase, without much thought for what she was bringing. Logan watched from the doorway of his bedroom, their bedroom really, since she'd been sleeping there more nights than not. "You know you can come back whenever you need to, right?" Logan said. "If it gets too hard, if you need a break, this is your home too." Ava stopped folding a shirt and looked at him. "Is it? Do you want it to be?" "Yes, but I don't want to assume—" "Ava, you have a toothbrush here, a drawer, half the closet. You're on Ethan's emergency contact list at school. You're already home. I'm just making it official." Something warm bloomed in Ava's chest. "Okay. Okay. This is home. Your home." Logan crossed the room and kissed her forehead. "Good. Now finish packing so you can go take care of your dad." Ava moved into her parents' house that afternoon, setting up camp in her childhood bedroom that hadn't changed since high school. The same floral bedspread, the same posters on the walls, the same desk where she'd done homework and written college essays and planned her escape to a bigger, better life. Looking at it now, she couldn't remember why she'd been so desperate to leave. Her father started chemotherapy the following Monday. Ava drove him to the cancer center, a building designed to look cheerful and failing miserably. They sat in a room full of recliners where people received poison through IV drips and tried to pretend this was normal. Her father was stoic through the first treatment, reading a newspaper while chemicals dripped into his veins. But by the second week, the side effects hit. Nausea. Fatigue so profound he could barely get out of bed. His hair started falling out in clumps. Ava's mother tried to hold it together, but Ava could see the cracks forming. She took over cooking, cleaning, managing medications, driving her father to appointments. She set up a spreadsheet to track symptoms and side effects. She researched clinical trials and alternative treatments and dietary recommendations for cancer patients. "You need to stop," her mother said one night after Ava had spent 3 hours reading medical journals online. "Stop what?" "Trying to fix this. You can't research your way out of cancer." "I can try." "No, you can't. All you can do is be here. That's enough." But it didn't feel like enough. Her father was getting sicker, not better. The tumor markers in his blood weren't dropping as fast as the doctors wanted. He'd lost 20 pounds. He couldn't walk up the stairs without getting winded. And Ava felt helpless. She called Logan every night, sometimes crying, sometimes just needing to hear his voice. He listened without trying to fix anything, which was both frustrating and exactly what she needed. "Ethan misses you," Logan said one night. "I miss him too. He wants to know if you'll be back for his birthday. It's in 3 weeks. Ava's heart sank. She'd completely forgotten. "I don't know if I can leave." "I understand, so will he." "Will he, though? He's 7. He'll think I'm abandoning him. He knows your dad is sick. He gets it." "I hate this," Ava said, her voice breaking. "I hate having to choose." "You're not choosing. You're doing your best with an impossible situation. My best isn't good enough." "Yes, it is." "Ava, listen to me. You're showing up for your parents when they need you. That's huge. The fact that you wish you could be in 2 places at once just means you love us. All of us. And that's not a bad thing." After they hung up, Ava lay in her childhood bed and stared at the ceiling, feeling torn in two. Part of her was here, with her parents, watching her father fight for his life. Part of her was with Logan and Ethan, missing Friday night dinners and soccer games and the simple routine of normal life. She didn't know how to be whole when she was split like this. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday, 4 weeks into her father's treatment. Ava was making soup in the kitchen when she heard her father get up from the couch, walk to the bathroom, and throw up for the 3rd time that day. Her mother went to help him, and Ava heard them through the door, her father's retching, her mother's soft murmurs, the sound of water running. When her father emerged, he looked gray, hollowed out, like cancer was eating him from the inside. "I can't do this anymore," he said, collapsing back on the couch. "Yes, you can," Ava's mother said firmly. "No, I can't. I'm done." Ava froze. "Dad, you can't quit treatment. Watch me. You're only halfway through. The doctor said—" "I don't care what the doctor said. I'm 62 years old and I feel like I'm dying. This isn't living. This is just existing while poison kills me slowly." "It's killing the cancer," Ava insisted. "Is it?" "Because I don't feel any better. I feel worse." Ava looked at her mother, desperate for backup, but her mother's expression was complicated. "Maybe we should listen to him," her mother said quietly. "What?" "No, he needs to finish treatment. The survival rate." "Survival rate doesn't mean anything if the survival isn't worth having," her father said. "So what? You're just giving up?" "I'm choosing quality over quantity." "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Her father's eyes flashed with anger. "Don't you dare call me stupid. I've spent 4 weeks puking my guts out, losing my hair, too weak to walk around the block. For what? A 60% chance I'll make it 5 more years? Those aren't good enough odds to justify this." "They're better than 0%. Ava," her mother said sharply. "That's enough." "No, it's not enough. He's giving up, and you're letting him." "I'm not giving up," her father said, his voice dangerous and low. "I'm making a choice about my own body, and you don't get a vote." Ava felt fury rise in her throat, hot and choking. "Fine, give up. See if I care." She grabbed her keys and stormed out of the house, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. She got in her car and drove with no destination in mind, just driving to be moving, to be away from the suffocating weight of that house and her father's surrender. She ended up at a park she'd gone to as a kid, empty now in the early evening. She sat on a swing and called Logan. "He's quitting," she said as soon as he answered. "What?" My dad, he's quitting treatment, says he'd rather die than feel like this. Logan was quiet for a moment. How do you feel about that? How do I feel? I feel like he's giving up, like he's choosing to abandon us instead of fighting. Is that what he's doing? What else would you call it? I'd call it a man making an impossible choice about his own life. Oh, don't give me that. You fought for Claire. You didn't let her give up. Claire wanted to fight, Logan said quietly. If she'd told me she wanted to stop treatment, I would have supported that too. Bullshit. It's not bullshit. It's respecting someone's autonomy. Your dad gets to decide what happens to his body, even if you don't agree with it. So I'm just supposed to watch him die? You're supposed to love him while he makes his own choices. Ava felt tears streaming down her face. I can't do that. Yes, you can. It'll be the hardest thing you've ever done, but you can do it. I'm so angry at him. I know. I'm angry at you too. Also fair. Stop being so understanding. It's annoying. Logan laughed softly. I love you, even when you're angry and unreasonable. I'm not unreasonable. You're a little unreasonable. Despite everything, Ava felt a smile tug at her mouth. I miss you. I miss you too. Come home for a bit. Take a break. I can't leave. Not now. Ava, you've been gone for a month. You're exhausted. You need to rest. I'll rest when he's better. What if he doesn't get better? The question hung in the air, sharp and terrible. Then I guess I don't rest, Ava said finally. After she hung up, she sat on the swing until the sun set and the park lights came on. Then she drove back to her parents' house, where her mother was sitting on the porch waiting for her. I'm sorry, Ava said. I know. I just want him to fight. He is fighting, just differently than you want him to. Ava sat down on the porch step. I don't understand. Her mother was quiet for a moment. When we came to this country, your father worked 3 jobs. Do you know why? To support us. Yes. But also because he wanted to give you a choice. He wanted you to have options he never had. The choice to go to college, the choice to pick a career you wanted instead of one you needed, the choice to build the life you deserved. Her mother paused. Now he's asking for the same thing. The choice to decide what his life looks like, even if it's shorter than we want. But if he stops treatment, then we'll have whatever time is left, and it will be his time, lived on his terms. Ava felt something break open inside her, all the anger draining away and leaving only grief. I'm not ready to lose him, she whispered. Neither am I. But this isn't about us. Her father appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. He looked tired, but determined. I haven't decided for sure, he said. I'm going to talk to the doctor, see if there are other options. Less aggressive treatment, maybe. Okay, Ava said. But if I decide to stop, I need you to respect that. I don't know if I can. You don't have to like it. You just have to accept it. Ava stood and walked to her father, wrapping her arms around him. He felt thinner than he had a month ago, more fragile, but he was still here, still solid, still her dad. I love you, she said. I love you too. They stood like that for a long moment, and when they broke apart, something had shifted. Not fixed, not resolved, but shifted into something they could maybe live with. That night, Ava texted Logan. I think I need to come home for a few days. His response was immediate. When? This weekend. For Ethan's birthday. He'll be thrilled. Me too. She also texted Ethan. Guess who's coming to your birthday party? 3 dots appeared. Then, is it a dinosaur? Ava laughed for the first time in weeks. Better, it's me. That's not better than a dinosaur, but it's still pretty good. She could almost hear Logan's voice in the background, telling Ethan that was rude, and Ethan insisting he was just being honest. The next morning, her father met with his oncologist. They adjusted his treatment plan, lower doses, different medications, breaks between cycles. It wouldn't be as effective, but it would be more tolerable. Her father agreed to try it. For now, he said, but if it gets bad again, I reserve the right to stop. Fair enough, the doctor said. Ava bit her tongue and said nothing. Friday afternoon, she packed a bag and made the drive back to Logan's house. It felt strange to be leaving her parents, like she was abandoning her post, but her mother had practically pushed her out the door. Go, her mother said. See your people. Rest. Call me if anything happens. Nothing will happen in 3 days. Go. The drive felt longer than usual, maybe because Ava was nervous. It had been over a month since she'd seen Logan and Ethan in person. What if things felt different? What if she'd been gone too long and the space she'd occupied had closed up without her? But when she pulled into the driveway, Ethan came running out before she'd even turned off the car. "You came!" he shouted, launching himself at her. "I told you I would." "I know, but I wasn't completely sure until I saw you." Logan followed at a more measured pace, but his smile was wide and genuine. When he reached her, he pulled her into a hug that felt like coming home. "You look tired," he said. "I am tired." "Then let's get you inside." Ethan's birthday party was the next day, a small affair in the backyard with 5 kids from school and enough pizza to feed 20. Ava helped set up decorations, dinosaur-themed because of course they were, and watched Ethan run around with his friends like he had infinite energy. "He's been talking about you all week," Logan said, standing beside her. "I missed him." "He missed you too. So did I." Ava leaned into him. "This is nice. Normal. I forgot what normal felt like." "How are your parents?" "My dad's back on treatment, modified version. We'll see if it works." "And you?" "I'm here. That's about all I can manage right now." Logan kissed the top of her head. "That's enough." Later, after the party wound down and the kids went home, Ethan opened his presents. He tore through them with enthusiasm, pausing to exclaim over each one. When he got to Ava's gift, a book about paleontology and a model T-Rex skeleton to build, his eyes went wide. "This is so cool. Can we build it tonight?" "If your dad says it's okay." Logan nodded. "But Ava might be too tired." "I'm never too tired for dinosaurs," Ava said. They spent the evening at the kitchen table, carefully assembling tiny plastic bones while Ethan read facts from the book. At one point, Logan caught Ava's eye across the table and smiled, and she felt something settle in her chest that had been restless for weeks. This was what she'd been missing, not just Logan or Ethan, but the simple act of being together, of building something small and meaningless and perfect. When the skeleton was complete, Ethan placed it carefully on his bookshelf and stepped back to admire it. "Best birthday ever," he declared. "Even without a real dinosaur?" Ava teased. "Even without a real dinosaur." After Ethan went to bed, Ava and Logan sat on the back porch with glasses of wine, the night warm and full of crickets. "I have to go back tomorrow," Ava said. "I know. I wish I could stay." "I know that too." "How do you do this? The back and forth? The being pulled in different directions?" Logan thought about it. "You just do, because the alternative is not being there at all, and that's worse." "Is it though? Because right now it feels like I'm failing everyone. My parents need me there, but you and Ethan need me here, and I can't be both places at once." "You're not failing anyone. You're human, and humans can only be in one place at a time." "That's a terrible design flaw." Logan laughed. "Agreed." They sat in silence for a while, and then Logan said, "What if we came to you?" Ava looked at him. "What?" "Next weekend, what if Ethan and I drove up, stayed in a hotel, gave you some backup?" "You'd do that?" "Of course I would. We're a team, remember?" Ava felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't deserve you." "Stop that. You absolutely do." She kissed him then, deep and grateful. And when they finally went to bed, wrapped around each other in the dark, Ava felt less alone than she had in weeks. Sunday morning came too soon. Ava packed her bag while Ethan watched mournfully from the doorway. "Do you really have to go?" "Yeah, buddy, I really do." "But you'll come back?" "Always." He hugged her tight, and Ava held on maybe a little longer than necessary. Logan walked her to her car, carrying her bag even though she'd told him she could do it herself. "Drive safe," he said. "I will." "And Ava?" "Yeah?" "You're doing great. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you are." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and got in the car. As she pulled out of the driveway, she looked in the rearview mirror and saw Logan and Ethan standing on the porch, waving. She waved back, and even though she was driving away, it didn't feel like leaving. It felt like she'd finally figured out how to be in 2 places at once, not physically, but in her heart. And maybe that was enough. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm that wasn't comfortable but was at least predictable. Ava spent weekdays with her parents, managing medications and doctor's appointments and the small indignities of illness. Weekends she drove back to Logan's house, where she tried to compress a week's worth of living into 2 days. Her father's modified treatment was working, slowly. The tumor wasn't growing, which the doctor said was a victory even if it didn't feel like one. He still got sick, still lost weight, still spent most days too exhausted to do more than sit on the couch. But he was trying, and that had to count for something. Logan and Ethan visited twice, staying in a hotel near her parents' house. Ethan charmed her mother with his endless questions and complete lack of filter. Her father, weakened but still sharp, taught Ethan to play chess, a game that required sitting still and thinking ahead. 2 things Ethan wasn't naturally good at, but tried hard to learn. "Your dad's good with him," Logan observed one evening, while Ethan and her father were locked in concentration over the chessboard. "He raised me, didn't he? He knows how to handle stubborn kids." "Ethan's not stubborn, he's enthusiastic. That's what my dad used to say about me, right before telling me I was impossible." Logan smiled. "The apple doesn't fall far." "Is that your way of saying I'm impossible?" "Sometimes. In the best way." Watching her father with Ethan did something to Ava's heart. Her father, who'd worked 3 jobs and barely had time to attend her school events, was now spending hours teaching a 7-year-old the names of chess pieces and basic strategy. He was patient in a way Ava didn't remember him being when she was young, though maybe he had been, and she'd just been too busy trying to make him proud to notice. "Check," Ethan announced triumphantly. Her father studied the board. "Good move. But look here. You've left your queen exposed." "Oh no." Ethan's face fell. "It's okay. You're learning. Next time you'll remember." "Will there be a next time?" Ethan asked with the bluntness only children could manage. "Ava says you're sick." The room went quiet. Ava started to intervene, but her father held up a hand. "I am sick," he said, "but I'm getting treatment, and I'm still here, which means we can play chess. What if the treatment doesn't work? Then I'll have taught you enough that you can teach someone else someday." Ethan considered this with a seriousness that looked strange on his young face. "Okay, but I hope it works." "Me too, kid. Me too." That night, after Ethan fell asleep in the hotel room and Logan was in the shower, Ava sat on the bed and called Rachel. "I think I'm drowning," she said without preamble. "Still or again?" "Both? I don't know. I thought I was handling this, but I'm not. I'm exhausted all the time. I can't remember the last time I slept through the night. And I feel guilty constantly. Guilty when I'm with my parents because I'm thinking about Logan and Ethan. Guilty when I'm with Logan and Ethan because my parents need me." That sounds awful. It is awful. And I don't know how to make it better. Rachel was quiet for a moment. "Can I say something you're not going to want to hear? When has that ever stopped you? You're trying to be everything to everyone and it's killing you. You can't be a full-time caregiver to your parents, and a full-time partner to Logan, and a full-time substitute parent to Ethan. Something has to give." "But what? I can't abandon my parents while my dad is sick." "I'm not saying abandon them. I'm saying recognize that you can't do this alone. Your mom is there. Your dad has doctors and nurses. You're acting like if you're not personally managing every detail, everything will fall apart." "Because it will." "No, it won't. You just think it will because you've spent your whole life believing that your worth is tied to how much you can handle." Ava felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't know how to not be that person." "You learn, little by little. You let other people help. You admit you can't do everything. You choose what matters most and let the rest go. And if I choose wrong, then you adjust. That's life, Ava. It's not a strategy game where you can plan 10 moves ahead. It's making the best choice you can with incomplete information and then dealing with the consequences." After they hung up, Ava sat in the quiet hotel room and thought about Rachel's words. Choose what matters most. The problem was everything mattered. Her parents mattered. Logan mattered. Ethan mattered. How was she supposed to choose? The answer came a week later, on a Friday afternoon when Ava was sitting with her father during a chemotherapy session. He was reading a book, or pretending to. Ava could tell he wasn't actually processing the words. The IV dripped steadily into his arm, poison masquerading as medicine. "Can I ask you something?" her father said suddenly. "Of course." "Do you love him, Logan?" Ava didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Enough to build a life with him?" I think I already am building a life with him. Her father set down his book. Then what are you still doing here? What do you mean? You're sick. You need me. I need your mother. I want you. There's a difference. That doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. Your mother and I, we're a team. We've been doing this together for 40 years. You being here is nice, but it's not necessary. What's necessary is that you live your own life. I am living my life. No, you're putting your life on hold to manage mine, and I don't want that. Ava felt frustration rise. So what? You're kicking me out? I'm setting you free. There's a difference. I don't want to be free. I want to be here. Her father looked at her with more clarity than she'd seen in weeks. Why? Because you're my father, because you're sick, because I love you, and because you feel guilty. Ava froze. What? You feel guilty that you spent so many years chasing career success instead of spending time with us. Now you're trying to make up for lost time by being here constantly, and it's not sustainable. That's not... Ava stopped. It was true. She'd missed Christmases because of work, skipped phone calls because she was busy, visited maybe 3 times a year if her parents were lucky. And now that her father was sick, she was trying to compress decades of absence into a few months of constant presence. You can't pay back time, her father said gently. You can only use the time you have left well, and using it well doesn't mean sacrificing your future for my past. You're not my past. You're my present. I'm both. And soon I'll be your memory. But Logan and Ethan, they're your future, and you need to be there for that. Ava's eyes filled with tears. What if I'm not ready to let you go? Then you'll let me go anyway, because that's what we do. We love people, and we let them go, and we keep living. She thought about Logan saying almost the same thing months ago about how you survived loss by choosing to keep going, about how promises weren't about staying stuck in the past, but carrying their meaning forward. I'm scared, she admitted. I know, so am I. But being scared together from 2 hours away isn't better than being scared while living your life. That night, Ava talked to her mother. Dad thinks I should go back to my normal life. Her mother was chopping vegetables for a soup no one would eat because her father's appetite had disappeared. He's right. You want me to leave too? I want you to stop trying to save us. We don't need saving, Ava. We need you to be okay. How can I be okay when Dad is sick? Because one of us being miserable is enough. We don't need 3. Her mother set down the knife and turned to face her. When we came to this country, we had nothing. No money, no connections, no safety net, and we survived because we chose to. Every day we woke up and chose to keep going, even when it was hard, even when we wanted to give up. I don't understand what that has to do with your father is choosing to keep going. Even with cancer, even feeling terrible, he's choosing to fight his way. And you need to make the same choice. Not to fight his battle, but to fight yours. To build the life you want with the people who matter to you. You matter to me. I know. And we'll still be here, whether you're in this house every day or 2 hours away. But Logan and Ethan won't wait forever. Life doesn't pause because things are hard. Ava felt something crack open inside her, all the guilt and fear and exhaustion spilling out. Her mother held her while she cried, and when the tears finally stopped, Ava felt emptied out but also lighter. What do I do? She asked. You go home. You show up for your life, and you call us every day, which you'll do anyway. What if something happens, and I'm not here? Then something happens and you're not here, and we'll handle it, because we're stronger than you think we are. The next morning, Ava packed her things. Her father watched from the couch, looking relieved. You're doing the right thing, he said. It doesn't feel right. The right thing rarely does at first. She hugged him carefully, aware of how fragile he felt. I love you, Dad. I love you too. Now go home and stop wasting your life worrying about mine. The drive back to Logan's house felt different this time. Not like running away or abandoning her post, but like moving towards something instead of just away from something else. She arrived in the early afternoon and found Logan in the garage, working on his truck with grease-stained hands and concentration creasing his forehead. You're early, he said, looking up in surprise. I'm staying. What? I'm staying, not just for the weekend. I'm coming home. Logan set down his wrench and wiped his hands on a rag. What about your parents? They'll be okay. My mom was right. They don't need me there every day. They need me to live my life. And you're sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Logan pulled her into a hug that smelled like motor oil and home. I'm really glad you're here. Me too. That night at dinner, Ethan was unusually quiet. Finally, he set down his fork and said, Are you staying for real this time? Yes. How do I know you won't leave again? The question hit harder than Ava expected. I can't promise I'll never leave. If my dad gets really sick, I might need to go back for a while. But this is where I live now, with you and your dad. What if you change your mind? I won't. But how do you know? Ava glanced at Logan, who nodded encouragingly. Because I love you, both of you, and love means showing up, even when it's hard. Ethan processed this. Dad says that too. About Mom. That he shows up for her memory because he loves her. Your dad's right. So if you love us, you'll keep showing up? Yes. Okay, but if you leave again, I'm going to be really mad. That's fair. Ethan picked up his fork and resumed eating as if they'd just discussed the weather instead of commitment and trust and the weight of promises made to children. Later, after Ethan was in bed, Logan and Ava sat on the back porch in their usual spots. The night was cool, autumn starting to creep in around the edges of summer. He was scared, Logan said, that you wouldn't come back. I know. I was scared too. Of what? That I'd made the wrong choice. That leaving my parents meant I was selfish. That coming back here meant I was giving up on them. And now? Now I think maybe I've been measuring everything wrong. I thought being a good daughter meant sacrificing everything else. But watching my dad get sicker while I tried to control his illness didn't make me a good daughter. It just made me exhausted. Logan reached for her hand. You're learning. I'm trying. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the crickets and the distant sound of traffic. Finally, Ava said, I want to do Friday nights again. At the diner? Yeah, the way we used to. Just us, or the three of us, whatever feels right. But I want that ritual back. Even though you're not trying to solve my grief anymore, especially because I'm not trying to solve anything, I just want to be there. Logan smiled. Okay, this Friday? This Friday. When Friday came, they drove to the diner at 7 o'clock. Ethan was with them this time, chattering about a project at school where they had to build a model of the solar system. Marla greeted them like old friends, which Ava supposed they were by now. They slid into the back booth, and Marla appeared with her notepad. 3 specials? 3 specials, Logan confirmed. Logan's son. The food came, and they ate together, the conversation flowing easily. Ethan dominated most of it, but occasionally Logan would catch Ava's eye and smile, and she'd feel something warm settle in her chest. Halfway through the meal, Ethan paused mid-bite and looked at the table. How come we don't have the extra plate anymore? The one for your mom, Dad? Logan set down his fork. Because we don't need it anymore. Why not? Because I learned that keeping a promise isn't about doing the same thing forever. It's about carrying what mattered forward into what matters now. Ethan frowned, processing. I don't get it. The promise I made to your mom was to keep showing up, to keep living, to let people into our lives who made us better. The plate was one way of doing that, but it's not the only way. So now the promise is different. The promise is the same, I'm just keeping it differently. Ethan thought about this and then nodded, satisfied. Okay, can I have ice cream after this? Ava laughed. Sure, buddy. After dinner, they went to the same ice cream place they'd visited months ago. Ethan got chocolate with rainbow sprinkles again, and it melted down his hand in the same way, and he gave them the same running commentary about nothing and everything. Walking back to the car, Ethan between them holding both their hands, Ava felt something she hadn't felt in months. Not happiness exactly, but peace. The kind that came from knowing she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Over the following weeks, Ava fell back into the rhythm of life with Logan and Ethan. She went to soccer games and school events. She helped with homework and made dinner and slowly started sleeping through the night again. She called her parents every day, sometimes twice. Her father's condition stabilized, not improving, but not declining either, existing in that strange middle space where survival was measured in small victories. "The tumor's shrinking," her mother reported one evening. "Slowly, but it's shrinking." "That's good. Better than good. The doctor says if it keeps responding this way, they might be able to operate." "When?" "Not for a few months, but maybe by spring." Ava felt hope flicker, dangerous and fragile. "How's Dad taking it?" "Cautiously optimistic, which for your father is basically dancing in the streets." Ava laughed. "Tell him I love him." "Tell him yourself. He's right here." Her father's voice came on the line, stronger than it had been in months. "I hear you're still living in sin with the mechanic." "He's an engineer, Dad, and we're not living in sin. Whatever you want to call it, I call it happy." "Good. That's what matters." They talked for a while longer about nothing important, and when Ava hung up, she realized she wasn't worried anymore. Not because the situation had magically resolved, but because she'd learned to carry the worry differently. Not as a weight that crushed her, but as something she could hold while still living her life. In November, Logan sat Ava down with a seriousness that made her nervous. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing's wrong. I just need to ask you something." "Okay." He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Ava's heart stopped. "Logan, let me say this before I lose my nerve." He opened the box, revealing a simple silver band. "I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet. That feels too fast, and I want Ethan to be part of that conversation when it happens." "Then what?" "This is a promise. That I'm serious about building a life with you. That this isn't just convenient or comfortable. It's real, and I want you to know that." Ava stared at the ring, tears already forming. "I don't understand. If it's not an engagement ring, it's a someday ring, a reminder that we're working toward something, that this matters." She let him slide it onto her right hand, the metal cool against her skin. "I've never heard of a someday ring." "I made it up. Is it stupid?" "It's perfect." She kissed him, tasting salt from her own tears. "You're perfect." "I'm really not." "Neither am I, but maybe we're perfect together. Maybe we are." That night, Ava showed the ring to Ethan, who examined it with the focus he usually reserved for dinosaur bones. "So you're staying forever?" he asked. "I'm staying as long as you'll have me." "What if we have you forever?" "Then I guess I'm staying forever." Ethan seemed satisfied with this answer. "Cool. Can you help me with my math homework? Dad's terrible at fractions." "I heard that," Logan called from the kitchen. "It's true," Ethan shouted back. Ava helped with the homework, and later she and Logan put Ethan to bed together, reading him a chapter from a book about dragons and knights and impossible quests. After Ethan fell asleep, they stood in his doorway for a moment, watching him breathe in the darkness. "Thank you," Logan said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up. On me, on us, on this messy, complicated life we're building." "Thank you for the same thing." They went to bed at the room that had become theirs, and Ava lay awake for a while, turning the ring on her finger. A someday ring. A promise that the future existed and they were building it together. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, eating alone in a diner and watching a stranger with an untouched plate. That woman had been searching for something without knowing what it was. She'd been measuring her worth by spreadsheets and promotions and the approval of people who didn't really know her. And now here she was, in a house that creaked at night, with a man who taught her that love was about showing up, and a 7-year-old who thought she was terrible at soccer but kept asking her to practice anyway. This wasn't the life she'd planned. It was better. In February, Ava's father had surgery to remove what was left of the tumor. It was successful, though the recovery was long and painful. Ava visited every week, sometimes with Logan and Ethan, sometimes alone. Her father grew stronger slowly, complaining the entire time about physical therapy and dietary restrictions and doctors who treated him like he was made of glass. "You're impossible," Ava told him after he'd argued with a nurse about whether he could have coffee. "I learned from the best," he shot back. And Ava realized he meant her. By spring, her father was in remission. Not cured. Cancer was never really cured, the doctor said, but stable, healthy enough to travel, strong enough to live. "We want to come visit," her mother said on the phone. "Stay for a week. Meet this life you've built." "We'd love that." They came in April when the weather was warming and Ethan's soccer season was starting. Ava watched her parents take in Logan's house, the photos on the walls, the kids' drawings on the refrigerator, the soccer cleats by the door. Her mother ran her fingers over the someday ring on Ava's hand and smiled. "You're happy," she said. "I am." "Good. That's all we ever wanted." Her father taught Ethan more chess strategies, and they played in the backyard while Logan grilled burgers that were slightly burned because he got distracted talking to Ava's mother about gardening, of all things. On their last night, they all went to the diner. Marla took one look at the five of them crowding into the back booth and brought an extra chair. "Family dinner," she observed. "Something like that," Logan agreed. They ordered too much food and ate slowly, savoring it. Ethan told Ava's parents about his science fair project. Her father told stories about Ava as a child that made her want to sink through the floor. Logan laughed more than Ava had ever heard him laugh, and her mother looked at her with something that might have been pride. When the meal ended and the plates were cleared, Ava looked around the table at these people. Her parents, who'd sacrificed everything. Logan, who'd taught her what it meant to truly show up. Ethan, who'd reminded her that love didn't have to be complicated to be real. "I want to say something," Ava announced. Everyone looked at her. "A year ago, I was sitting in this diner trying to figure out why a stranger kept ordering 2 meals. I thought maybe I could solve his sadness or fix whatever was broken in his life. But the truth is, he wasn't broken. I was." Logan started to protest, but she held up her hand. "I was measuring everything wrong. I thought success meant working until I collapsed. I thought being a good daughter meant giving up everything else. I thought love had to be perfect to be real." She paused. "And then I met you, and you showed me that the best things in life are the ones you can't control, that promises aren't about perfection, they're about showing up even when it's hard, that sometimes the most important thing you can do is just be present." She looked at her father. "You taught me that too. When you chose to fight on your own terms instead of mine, when you told me to go live my life instead of managing yours. You taught me that loving someone means respecting their choices, even when you disagree with them." Her father's eyes were bright. "You're welcome." She turned to Ethan. "And you taught me that it's okay to be scared and honest about it, that asking questions isn't weakness, it's how we learn." "I ask a lot of questions," Ethan agreed solemnly. "You really do," Ava said, smiling. Finally, she looked at Logan. "And you taught me that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting what came before, that you can honor the past while building the future, that the opposite of stuck isn't perfect, it's just forward." Logan reached for her hand across the table. "We taught each other." "Yeah, we did." Marla appeared at Ava's elbow. "You folks want dessert, or are you going to keep making me cry?" "Both," Logan said. They stayed until closing, long after the pie was gone and the coffee had grown cold. When they finally left, walking out into the spring night, Ava paused in the parking lot and looked back at the diner. The neon sign flickered, still missing the E, and through the window she could see Marla wiping down tables. It looked exactly the same as it had a year ago, this forgettable little place on the corner of Mercer and Fifth. But everything was different now. "You coming?" Logan called. He was already at the car, Ethan half asleep against his shoulder, her parents waiting by their rental. "Yeah," Ava said. "I'm coming." She took one last look at the diner, at the booth in the back corner where she'd watched a stranger eat alone and decided to care about why, where she'd learned that the most important promises aren't the ones you make to others, but the ones you make to yourself. To show up, to be present, to keep moving forward even when you don't know where you're going. Then she turned and walked toward her family, the one she was born into and the one she'd chosen, and felt something settle into place inside her chest. Not the feeling of arriving somewhere, but the feeling of finally understanding that home wasn't a destination. It was the people you chose to build a life with, day by difficult day, until the days stopped being difficult and started being just days. Good ones and hard ones and everything in between. She got in the car beside Logan, and he reached over to squeeze her hand. The someday ring caught the streetlight, glinting silver. "Ready?" he asked. Ava looked back at the diner one more time, then at Logan, then at Ethan sleeping in the back seat. "Yeah," she said. "I'm ready." And she was, because she'd finally learned what that stranger in the diner had been trying to show her all along. That keeping a promise didn't mean staying in the past. It meant carrying its meaning into a better future. It meant showing up not because someone demanded it, but because you chose it. It meant building something real out of loss and hope, and the stubborn decision to keep going even when you didn't know how. The car pulled out of the parking lot, leaving the diner behind but taking its lessons forward. And somewhere in the space between where they'd been and where they were going, Ava found what she'd been searching for without knowing it. Not perfection, not certainty, not some imaginary finish line that would finally make her feel like she was enough. Just this. Just the messy, complicated, beautiful act of showing up for the people you loved and letting them show up for you. Just the understanding that the best promises aren't the ones that never change. They're the ones that grow with you, evolving into something better than you could have planned. Just the quiet knowledge that she'd finally stopped running toward something and started running with someone. And that made all the difference.